The demonic eyes flickered as if the entire world was blinking, imbued with an eerie essence. Even the three great Mahayana Daolords within the abyssal world of demonic eyes felt the rules of the Tao being eroded, as if the heavens and earth were being overturned. The hundred-eyed demonic Daolord of the abyss, who had devoured countless worlds, wielded rules of power that were both bizarre and supreme. This was the most terrifying aspect of the abyssal demons, defying the conventional measures of cultivators. Think the power of abyssal demons is invincible. At that moment, Qin Shenwu manifested the five elements Tao rules around him, conjuring a supremely real mini-world out of thin air. This small world enveloped everyone within it, instantly shielding them from the effects of the demonic eyes. The hundred-eyed demonic Daolord's gaze turned hostile, ready to strike again. But Qin Shenwu waved his hands, causing the mini-world of the five elements to suddenly expand. Under his control, the forces of the five elements merged and interacted, culminating in a violent explosion that burst forth like a supernova. This terrifying force directly shattered the abyss of demonic eyes, sending the two abyssal demonic Daolords reeling back hundreds of miles from the blast. Qin Shenwu, wielding the Mahayana power of the five elements Tao rules, simulated the birth and destruction of a world, terrifying in its intensity. The three broke free from the abyss of demonic eyes and seized the opportunity to launch their arcane celestial treasures at the abyssal Daolords, gaining a slight advantage in these exchanges. However, just then, a terrifying wave of energy surged from behind them. The three Daolords were shocked. Could there be another Daolord from the abyssal demons? In the next moment, a fearsome power, worthy of a Daolord, attacked from behind. The void rippled like waves, showcasing the formidable strength of this strike. Forced to abandon their killing move, Qin Shenwu and the others dodged the attack and turned to face the newcomers. So it's you, the Mahayana Daolords of the three realms. Do you truly intend to collude with the abyssal demons? The Daolord of the divine shadow, Gate, harshly rebuked the arrivals. A serpent as vast as the stars, a giant clad in bizarre purple scales, and an Eldarian elder who was elusive, blending in and out of the void as if one with it, were the Mahayana Daolords from the Tianyao, Shanghai, and Tianling realms. What a joke! It's clear that your floodgate realm pushed your luck, greedily attempting to monopolize the new world, and thus you deserved your fate, declared the Daolord of the sky-devouring serpent clan. They had anticipated that the Daolords of the floodgate realm might harbor intentions for a battle with them beforehand. Should a clash of Mahayana Daolords occur, the battlefield would inevitably be set in an outer domain. This siege had been anticipated by the Daolords of the three foreign races. After all, the endless dragging and chaotic warfare with the floodgate realm was becoming unbearable for their three realms. Now, leveraging the power of the abyssal demon Daolords was their final step in dismantling the floodgate realm. What the truth is, you foreign races know best. Colluding with abyssal demons, you're playing with fire. Qin Shenwu stepped forward, rebuking the demon beast Daolord. Cackle, cackle, the truth doesn't matter. Today you all will die here, and the floodgate realm will be ours. But behind him, the two abyssal demon Daolords had quietly encircled them, laughing cruelly. The arrival of the three realms didn't surprise them. The melee had already demonstrated the strength of the floodgate realm's Daolords. If they could now seize victory through schemes, they naturally wouldn't mind. Enough talk, humans, it's time for you to die, roared the Daolord of the deep-sea nomads, summoning a trident and swinging it fiercely towards them. Instantly, the space fluctuated, and invisible waves surged through the void. This was the deep-sea nomads, arcane celestial treasure, the trident of the abyssal sea, capable of turning anything into a liquid-like existence. At this moment, space folded upon itself, sweeping away with terrifying force. Qin Shenwu snorted coldly, the light of the five elements appearing behind him one by one, as a massive column of five-colored light blasted out. Boom, boom! Their collision in the outer domain exploded a vast area of the void, stirring up a storm. In an instant, all Daolords hesitated no longer, unleashing the power of their Tao rules, launching into action. The terrifying momentum filled the outer domain, with the force of Tao rules rising everywhere, stirring countless stars. The Mahayana Daolord of the Pantheon sect summoned the 100 divine orders, calling forth dozens of deity phantoms imbued with the rules of Tao, wielding divine weapons to strike at the Daolords of the deep-sea nomads and demon beasts. The Daelord of the Divine Shadow Gate fully activated the power of the Void Piercer, perfectly melding into the void for a fierce battle within the perilous domain of void energy. Meanwhile, Qin Shenwu manifested the full might of the Five Elements Dao, expanding the world of the Five Elements. Various Dao rules transformed into avatars, becoming massive representations of the red, yellow, brown, green, and blue aspects of the Five Elements. Each represented a force of the Five Elements, embodying destruction, defense, vitality, and other derived rules of the Five Elements. Coordinating with Qin Shenwu, the avatars of the Five Elements charged at the two abyssal Daelords, engaging in a chaotic melee. Their exquisite teamwork allowed them to face two opponents without falling into disadvantage. The two abyssal Daelords, caught between the attacks of the Five Elements avatars, writhed as their flesh pulsed and demonic chi surged, manifesting the abyssal Dao rules. From within, all manners of demons and ghosts emerged, dancing wildly in a demonic frenzy. The grand battle among the three Mahayana Daelords resembled a war between two worlds, immensely magnificent and shocking. On the other side of the battlefield, the Daelords of the deep-sea nomads and demon beasts revealed their true forms to jointly attack the Daelord of the Pantheon sect. Their inherent power was so vast that a single strike could crush stars. The Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan deployed his lifeblood divine power, his mouth seemingly containing a universe, swallowing the divine weapon avatars summoned by the Daelord of the Pantheon sect without any backlash. The Daelord of the deep-sea nomads continuously shook the void, stirring the outer domain and creating an invisible vortex. Countless meteorites and stars were drawn in, merging into a terrifying compressed celestial body, directly crushing down. This strike, layered with the rules of spatial dimensions, left the Daelord of the Pantheon sect with no escape. He had to manifest his true form, 1,000 giant hands clenching into fists, to directly confront the terrifying star hurtling towards him. Rumble, rumble. Tremendous power erupted in the outer domain as the Daelord of the Pantheon sect's Dharma form battered the star, causing a horrific explosion that tore vast swathes of the void asunder, with lightning and fire bursting between the fists. However, the power of the Daelord of the deep-sea nomads ultimately proved stronger, and the Dharma form of the Daelord of the Pantheon sect was the first to collapse. Facing two opponents was ultimately too strenuous. After all, the enemies were also Daelords, the pinnacle of existence in the spiritual realm. The sudden assault by the Daelords of the three realms still brought a terrifying crisis to the Floodgate realm. As the battle of the Mahayana Daelords intensified, Qin Shenwu and his companions found themselves increasingly hard-pressed. They had pushed the rules of the Tao to their limits, and each clash released energy waves potent enough to destroy or give birth to a minor world. The once void and profound outer domain was now dominated by various Tao rules, resembling star rivers tearing through the deep sky. The Daelords seemed to be battling at the very edge of the universe, grinding even the Tao itself to nothingness. Cackle, cackle, what 5 elements incarnations, all shall become my nourishment. The 100-eyed abyssal Daelord and another abyssal Daelord had nearly shattered Qin Shenwu's 5 elements avatars. In their assault, they pounced onto the 5 elements avatars, their flesh swelling and forming a layer of fleshly garment that tightly wrapped around the avatars. After a series of bizarre twists and contractions, they devoured the Tao rules of the 5 elements, emerging from within the avatars and turning them into a heap of dead matter. The ability of the Mahayana abyssal demons could even erode and devour Tao rules. Thus, the two abyssal Daelords, following the same method in their exchanges, devoured all of Qin Shenwu's 5 element avatars, putting him at a sudden disadvantage against two opponents. Meanwhile, in the void battlefield, the Daelord of the Divine Shadow Gate was engaged in combat with the Daelord of the Eldars. They maneuvered through the void, each move fraught with deadly peril, fighting solely on their understanding of Tao rules and mastery of the void. Clearly, it was difficult to determine a victor in their evenly matched and tense battle. At the same time, the Daelord of the Pantheon sect quickly faced a counterattack from the Daelords of the demon beasts and deep-sea nomads. On one side was the brutally fierce Daelord of the deep-sea nomads, and on the other was the ancient and powerful Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan. Together, these two made it exceedingly difficult for the seasoned Daelord of the Pantheon sect to fend off their attacks. The demon beast Daelord wielded the devouring power to its peak, capable of making everything intangible, even grinding time and space to achieve terrifying speeds. The massive sky-devouring serpent danced wildly, devouring the rule forces unfolded by the Daelord of the Pantheon sect. Under such suppression, his power was reduced by at least a fifth. The Daelord of the deep-sea nomads wielded the trident of the abyssal sea to transform the outer domain into a dark ocean, stirring up storms with his movements and overturning heaven and earth. "You cannot escape. I'll give you one more chance, submit to us, and you might live," the Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan said while suppressing the Daelord of the Pantheon sect, attempting to tempt him. However, it was clear that sparing the Daelord of the Floodgate realm was not really an option. Only with the death of these top beings could they truly rule the Floodgate realm with peace of mind, even potentially turning against the abyssal demons later. "A Mahayana Daelord, yet so naive. Do you truly think you've already won?" retorted the Daelord of the Pantheon sect sarcastically. "Oh, you think you three still have a way out today? Today, if you—" The Daelord of the demon beasts was about to scoff, but suddenly stopped his speech. Because suddenly, a terrifying presence appeared deep in the void. At that instant, both the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the three realms furrowed their brows. Could it be? A terrifying force sliced through the void, and a massive world gate suddenly swung open. From within emerged a towering figure, whose formidable aura instantly enveloped everything. "Ha ha ha, demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, abyssal demons, today marks your end." Rays of dawn pierced through the world gate, illuminating the newcomer. Behind the two elderly figures, immensely majestic Dharma forms trailed, their presence astonishingly rushing towards the battlefield. "Did you think, abyssal demons, foreign races, that only you knew the art of scheming?" With the powerful aura drawing near, the Daelord of the Pantheon sect couldn't help but burst into laughter. It turned out that before they initiated this grand battle of the Mahayana, they had already prepared a contingency plan. These two Mahayana Daelords were actually the hidden powerhouses of the Floodgate realm. They were ancient beings within the realm, unable to ascend to immortal realm for certain reasons, thus choosing to seal themselves away, waiting for a time of great calamity or a turning point for the Floodgate realm. With the appearance of these two new Mahayana Daelords, the countenances of the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the three foreign races turned solemn. These two human Mahayana Daelords exuded an aura far more profound and terrifying than the others, carrying with them an air not of this spiritual realm. Ancestor Limitless, Ancestor Heavenlight. Qin Shenwu and the others momentarily withdrew from the battlefield, saluting the two elders from afar. The elders nodded, then turned their gaze towards the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the foreign races on the battlefield. They were once invincible beings of countless generations past, unable to ascend due to cultivation issues, hence remaining until this era. Such secrets were only privy to beings at the Daelord level of the Floodgate realm, who had to address these two as ancestors. This respect was not just due to their seniority, but also their terrifying power. They were the true pinnacle of Mahayana, even bordering on the existence of half-immortals. "How is this possible? Such beings should have ascended to the immortal realm long ago," roared the hundred-eyed demonic Daelord, incredulous. As someone who had seen thousands of worlds, he could tell that the two elders were extraordinary. "HMPH, our ascension may very well hinge on the likes of your lives. You demons, today you shall meet your end," declared the one known as Ancestor Limitless. His cultivation of the limitless Tao was incredibly dominant, marred only by a single flaw, the difficulty of achieving immortality. This path of Tao demanded exceptionally unique talents, which Ancestor Limitless did not naturally possess. Despite cultivating forcefully with his prodigious aptitude, the threshold to immortality remained insurmountable for him. Thus, he sealed himself away for tens of thousands of years, waiting for the right moment. For beings like him, the best path to ascension was arguably through accruing merit by achieving great deeds. Slaying the abyssal demons today might indeed offer him a glimmer of hope for ascension. "And as for you, foreign races, your ancestors once submitted to our Floodgate realm. Are you now seeking to defy us?" Ancestor Heavenlight also slowly spoke, unveiling ancient secrets. Once, the Floodgate realm was the sole powerhouse among the four realms, suppressing the others. It was only after the rise of these realms and the ascension of human powerhouses that they found an opportunity to surge in strength. At these words, the Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan's face turned ashen. As the leader of the oldest clan within the Xianxia realm, he was privy to these ancient secrets. However, the Daelords of the Shanghai realm and Tianling realm were filled with confusion. It was only upon seeing the demon beast Daelord's expression that they became aware of such ancient secrets for the first time. Silence, that was merely your human race taking advantage of others' misfortune. Today, by slaying you all, the human race will no longer have a day to rise again, roared the Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan in fury. Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight showed no fear, unleashing their own powers of Tao rules. Let's see if you possess the strength to back up those words. They had remained hidden for the human race, serving as the final secret weapon. Awakened today, their purpose was to decisively settle the conflict with the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the three realms in this battle. Instantly, the two great ancestors made their move, their terrifying power erupting, shaking the cosmos. Behind Ancestor Limitless manifested the Tao of Limitlessness, his rule power dominantly present as he summoned a sword in his hand, his intrinsic arcane celestial treasure, the Limitless Supreme Sword. With the sword's appearance, the surrounding void instantly thinned, as fragile as paper. A gentle swing from him brought forth a vision of the starry river, his terrifying dharmic power transforming into a dragon, striking towards the two demonic Daelords. This attack fiercely initiated the battle, with each participant manifesting their divine powers. The two abyssal Daelords, their recently devoured energy slashed away by Ancestor Limitless's sword, were enraged beyond measure. They transformed into shapeless monsters and furiously attacked. Like two demonic stars bristling with fleshly tendrils, they surrounded Ancestor Limitless, their demonic chi soaring as they engulfed him. Foreign races, let me teach you some manners. Ancestor Heavenlight also reprimanded as he made his move. Instead of confronting the abyssal demons, he summoned his arcane celestial treasure, the great sun staff, and pointed it towards the demon beast Daelord. Instantly, an infinite storm of dharmic power bombarded forward. The demon beast Daelord instantly coiled like a dragon, and a barrier-like shield rose around him to neutralize the attack. Each of his scales, refined and consecrated, could be considered a defensive artifact. Old Taoist, I'll see if your strength is as great as your arrogance. In a state of fury, his Tao rules manifested, instantly appearing before Ancestor Heavenlight. With a fierce swipe of his massive tail, carrying the force of stars, he pressed down. Rumble! As the two engaged, a massive storm of energy erupted, causing countless stars to fall in the process. At this moment, even within the floodgate realm and the three realms, countless beings were shocked. Although they could not see the clash of the Mahayana Daelords, the stars falling from the sky, imbued with formidable Tao power, felt like the end of the world. Qin Shenwu, the Daelord of the Pantheon sect, and the Daelord of the Divine Shadow Gate no longer held back, attacking with full force. They evolved the power of Tao rules to its pinnacle, where creations perish and the void becomes but a shadow, with divine weapons descending from the heavens towards their foes. The tide of the battlefield had completely turned, with the human race Daelords overwhelming the abyssal and foreign Daelords. Especially Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight, although they had not reached the realm of immortality, their comprehension of Tao rules and techniques surpassed all present as beings of ancient power. Under their assault, the hundred-eyed abyssal Daelord and the Daelord of the sky-devouring serpent clan were in a dire state, utterly unable to break free from their suppression. Even Qin Shenwu, the Daelord of the Pantheon sect, and the Daelord of the Divine Shadow Gate were dominating their opponents in the clash. The fierce battle resembled a war of creation deities, with numerous worlds being born and destroyed in its wake. The aftermath of the fight was uncontrollable, and many cultivators across various worlds sensed the terrifying battle occurring in the outer domain. A clash between Mahayana Daelords in the spiritual realm is a rarity seen once in 10 million years. The power of these top beings, even across the infinite void, instilled fear in countless hearts. Many worlds experienced anomalies in their orbits due to this battle, showcasing the consequences of Mahayana Daelords fighting with all their might. Ancestor Limitless held the Limitless Supreme Sword, wielding it like rain to sever dozens of the hundred-eyed demonic Daelords' demonic eyes in an instant. Ancestor Heavenlight's great sun staff conjured a giant sun, bursting the sky-devouring serpent clan Daelord's devouring domain. The hundred-eyed demonic Daelord let out a sharp demonic cry, while the sky-devouring serpent clan Daelord was scorched by the divine sunfire, burning countless scales in a grievous state. Yet this alone was not enough to slay them. A clash between Mahayana Daelords, unless overwhelmed by sheer numbers or due to foolish acts, is incredibly difficult to result in the death of an opponent. After all, a Mahayana Daelord is akin to the Tao itself. Unless the Tao perishes, they do not die. Seeing this, the two human race ancestors furrowed their brows in urgency. If they could not fully capitalize on this rare opportunity and achieve a decisive victory, it would be even harder to overcome their enemies when they came back again prepared. Cackle, cackle, you old fools, do you really think you can kill us? The abyssal demons will surely repay you heavily in the future. Sensing that the human race ancestors were unable to slay them, the hundred-eyed demonic Daelord spoke with a sinister laugh, dissipating the anger in his heart. But in the next moment, under the astonished gaze of the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the three realms, Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight suddenly unveiled a miraculously terrifying object. From their body, they each produced a treasure resembling a gourd split in half, radiating mists of colorful auroras. The emergence of this halved gourd unleashed an ancient, supreme aura, cleansing the deep darkness of the outer domain, making it incredibly luminous in an instant. This aura did not belong to this world. It was unmistakably the legendary light of ascension. In that moment, everyone present was stunned, rooted to the spot. The treasures the human race ancestors had unveiled were actually immortal treasures. These were existences that transcended arcane celestial treasure, truly detached from this world's possession. While arcane celestial treasures were already entities that the spiritual realm might not encounter, the immortal treasures mentioned in legends were peerless treasures rarely seen across the vast cosmos. Merely the aura emanating from the immortal treasure was enough to suppress and shake the manifested rules of the great Mahayana beings. Immortal treasure, the alchemy gourd, activate. Under the command of Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight, the two halves of the gourd began to slowly merge. In an instant, boundless celestial light filled this part of the outer domain. The Mahayana Daelords felt their bodies becoming uncontrollable, their Tao rules retracting back into themselves. Such was the terrifying power of an immortal treasure. Its mere appearance carried the potential for destruction. The reason Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight each held a half of the immortal treasure wasn't due to dividing it between them, but because they dared not possess a complete one. The power of a full immortal treasure was not something anyone below an immortal could wield. Should any of them carry a complete treasure, it might very well result in being consumed by its power, eventually becoming part of it. With the immortal treasure unveiled, both the abyssal demons and the Daelords of the foreign races felt their lives flickering like candles in the wind. As the celestial aura of the immortals continued to spread, the alchemy gourd finally merged into one, releasing an ancient and supreme power that even made Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight's faces flush. Despite their cultivation levels, activating an immortal treasure was still no small feat. However, under their meticulous control, the alchemy gourd finally began to prepare its attack. The terrifying aura of impending doom spread instantly, causing even bystanders like Qin Shenwu and the others to involuntarily hold their breaths. The two abyssal Daelords and the Daelords of the three realms felt an overwhelming terror approaching. The power of the immortal treasure locked onto them, and in that moment they were struck with the urge to flee. Such power could erase even the Tao itself. In an instant, all five Mahayana Daelords manifested their full strength of Tao rules and fled without looking back, traversing thousands of miles of the void in the blink of an eye. Yet no matter how far they fled, an omnipresent force continued to lock onto them, the supreme rules still suppressing their power. Deep within their consciousness, they seemed to see an immortal holding the alchemy gourd, staring directly at them. By then, the alchemy gourd was shrouded in dense celestial light, evolving images of cosmic creation and destruction beyond the comprehension of the Mahayana Daelords, dazzling everyone. Explode! Finally unable to withstand the pressure, the hundred-eyed demonic Daelord shouted, resorting to his last resort. All his eyes shot out, then exploded into a blood mist, which then reformed into countless replicas of himself. It was as if countless mirrors were reflecting him, creating infinite images. This was his technique of burning his essence, 100 demons' confusion, where every avatar released was almost indistinguishable from his true body, and he could switch his true body into any of the illusions at any time. With this technique, even if faced with 10 Mahayana Dailords, he could still escape. At this moment, the alchemy gourd's condensed immortal chi finally erupted, sending out 5 brilliantly colored beams of immortal light that instantly pierced through the void. The immortal light, carrying the highest Tao rules, forced everything in its path to yield. In the blink of an eye, this formidable attack reached all the enemies. Such immense force left these Mahayana Dailord without the will to resist. The first to be overtaken by the immortal light from the alchemy gourd was an abyssal Dailord without eyes or mouth. Upon the immortal light's arrival, he emitted a strange, shrill scream as if thousands of beasts were howling together. Then his body, comprised of countless black worms, burst apart into many rays of black light that drilled into the void. However, as the colorful immortal light suddenly intensified, illuminating the void, something bizarre occurred. Under the illumination of the immortal light, time seemed to flow backward as the countless worms were sucked back, reconstituting the abyssal Dailord's body. Then the immortal light seamlessly passed through him, leaving a large hole in his body where the immortal light burned at the edges, expanding until he was completely incinerated. An abyssal Mahayana Dailord thus fell, becoming the first casualty of this battle. Almost simultaneously, a similar fate befell the 100-eyed demonic Dailord. No matter how he shifted among his avatars, under the illumination of the immortal light, there was nowhere to hide. No, no, I don't want to die. He roared in despair, transforming into a gigantic demonic eye that shot out a terrifying beam of demonic chi, creating a vast chasm in the void itself. Yet upon contact with the immortal light, this beam of demonic chi was directly dissolved and destroyed. The gap in the levels of power was insurmountable, not something that could be bridged by a mere outburst. As the immortal light from the alchemy gourd demolished all demonic chi and finally pierced through the 100-eyed demonic Dailord's body, the dying wail of the eyeless and mouthless abyssal Dailord reached his ears. Then under the scorching immortal light, the 100-eyed demonic Dailord too unwillingly turned to ash. Such was the power of an immortal treasure, transcending all the rules of this world. With just one strike, it instantaneously eradicated 2 abyssal Mahayana Dailords. This was also related to their abilities being specifically countered by the alchemy gourd. The deceptive and domineering powers of these 2 abyssal demons, highly effective under normal circumstances, were rendered utterly useless before the transcendent power of immortal light. Under the rule of the supreme immortal light, all deception and evil were exposed and ultimately annihilated. The 3 foreign Mahayana Dailords, while the immortal light targeted the abyssal demons, found a sliver of survival in their desperate situation. They detonated all the treasures on their persons to exhaust the energy of the immortal light and barely preserve their lives. By then, they dared not harbor any rebellious thoughts, only managing to drag their severely damaged bodies and primordial spirits, fleeing towards their respective realms with all their might. However, at this moment, Ancestor Limitless and Ancestor Heavenlight, along with Qin Shenwu and the others, were already in hot pursuit. The activation of the alchemy gourd had reached their limit, but they managed to catch up to the fleeing lights of the 3 foreign Mahayana Dailords, launching attacks simultaneously. The opportunity to strike at these Dailords was immensely satisfying. The invasion and the casualties inflicted upon the Floodgate realm by the 3 realms were all to be avenged today. Fleeing in front of the Dailord of the Pantheon sect was the great Dailord of the Deep-Sea Nomads, now so battered that not a single purple scale could be found on him, resembling a creature stripped of its fur. The Dailord of the Pantheon sect immediately summoned his golden dharmic form, unleashing thousands of massive palm strikes. The Deep-Sea Nomad Dailord could only dodge in a wretched state, hit repeatedly and further mutilated, with even half of his fins broken. He endured the humiliation and focused solely on escape, abandoning his previous arrogance. He knew stopping would spell his death. This was the mindset of the foreign Dailords at this moment. If one became the slowest, death was certain. Qin Shenwu and the others bombarded the fleeing Dailords without mercy, none daring to retaliate. Even the demon beast Dailord Snake Tail was severely chopped off, falling through the void, and the Eldarian Dailord lost an arm. They were all gravely injured, clinging to life by sheer will alone. Ultimately, after the suppression of the immortal treasure was lifted, the three great foreign Daelords managed to escape back to their worlds. The pursuers dared not follow too deep into foreign territories. However, they sent a message directly through the realms to the Floodgate realm. The foreign Daelords have been defeated. Begin the full counterattack. The foreign Daelords have been defeated. Begin the full counterattack. The words of the Mahayana Daelords, cutting through the barriers of the realms, reached every corner of the Floodgate realm. This shocking decree, with its undeniable momentum, sent tremors through countless hearts. Such news stirred a massive wave of discussion within the four realms, leaving billions of beings doubting their own ears. The great Daelords of the demon beast, deep-sea nomad, and eldars were defeated. Countless members of the foreign races were terrified, and the armies engaged in fierce battles against the Floodgate realm. The realm barriers were instantly thrown into disarray, their hearts filled with fear. To cultivators, Mahayana Daelords are the supreme beings, the true masters of a realm, and the pinnacle of the path of cultivation. They are seen as invincible, omnipotent entities. How could they possibly be defeated? But the words of the three great Daelords spread throughout the four realms, carrying a terrifying momentum. This was indeed a decree from a Daelord, and there was no reason for a Daelord to deceive. The four realms fell silent, no one daring to make a move. They all awaited a response from the foreign Daelords. However, there was no response. Faced with the provocation of the Floodgate realm's Daelords, the Daelords of the three realms did not appear. And this in itself was their response. The great Daelords of the demon beast, deep-sea nomad, and eldars had indeed been defeated by the Daelords of the Floodgate realm. This meant that the ultimate deterrent of the three realms had been nullified, and the Floodgate realm now stood on an invincible footing. Regardless of the situation outside, the Mahayana Daelords had made their move, and the outcome had been decided. With the victory of the Floodgate realm's Daelords, it meant that the tide of war had completely turned. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and others were still in the northern sky domain, helping the extremely yin sect and the frozen heavens doorway to tidy up the battlefield. The decree of the Mahayana Daelords left everyone stunned. "Is this true?" asked Saint Frozen Heaven in astonishment. Just moments ago, the northern sky domain was on the verge of annihilation. Now they were told that the war had shifted to a comprehensive victory and counterattack, which was astonishing news. "I think it must be true," Jiang Chengxuan said after a brief pause. Jiang Chengxuan had faintly sensed the terrifying power of the Mahayana Daelords' battle in the outer domain. His intuition, honed by the heavenly calculation technique, felt like a great terror loomed overhead, threatening imminent destruction. Now, with the Daelords of the Floodgate realm emerging victorious, he knew the truth of their triumph. The battle of Daelords could decide everything. Imagining this, Jiang Chengxuan's blood boiled with fervor. One day, he too aspired to stand at the pinnacle of the universe, controlling the fate of worlds. "Let's go, let's invade the foreign realms, and avenge our fallen comrades." Without any hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan led his forces on a counteroffensive. For the first time, they ventured into an other realm, the territory of the deep-sea nomads, the Shanghai realm. The realm was dominated by the powerful and tumultuous Tao of water, with the ocean constituting its entirety. Jiang Chengxuan, alongside several Tao integration saints, traversed the Shanghai realm, immediately encountering their previous adversaries. Saint Furious Wave and Saint Stormwave, along with the army of deep-sea nomads they led. Clearly, they hadn't expected Jiang Chengxuan to launch an invasion of the Shanghai realm so swiftly and without hesitation. The silence from the deep-sea nomad Daelords had already instilled immense fear in the hearts of deep-sea nomads. Attack, counterattack into the other realms, exterminate the foreign beings. With a wave of his right hand, Jiang Chengxuan summoned the golden void sword amidst golden light, launching a direct assault. Instantly, Shen Ruyan, Saint Extreme Yin, Saint Frozen Heavens, and others unveiled their trump cards and charged at the enemy. Shen Ruyan wielded the 5 lightning immortal slayer, with lightning filling the sky, transforming into a river of thunder and lightning. Saint Extreme Yin commanded the 9 mystical ice rings, emitting 9 arcs of light mixed with ice and snow. Saint Frozen Heavens brandished the ice dragon flag, from which a giant ice dragon emerged, spewing dragon breath and slashing at foes with its claws. Their thunderous assault caught the deep-sea nomads, Tao integration saints off guard. Rumble! A massive explosion created a huge crater in the ocean, with lightning scattering in all directions. With everyone's trump cards revealed, just one exchange resulted in significant gains. The deep-sea nomads' army suffered 1,000 casualties, and 2 of their Tao integration saints were gravely injured. Damn these humans, too audacious. The deep-sea nomads' leading Tao mastery saint was furious. The first battle of the Floodgate Realm's counterattack was thus ignited. Despite having the geographical advantage of the Xianxia realm, the cultivators of the deep-sea nomads were too worried to fully commit themselves, given the news of their realm's great Daelord's defeat. They felt as if a divine sword of execution hung over their heads, ready to bring down death at any moment. With the Daelords of the Floodgate realm intimidating from the outer domain, no one dared to lead the charge. Yet failing to act would also mean being slain by the Floodgate realm's cultivators. Saint Furious Wave and Saint Stormwave clashed with Jiang Chengxuan and his allies, already at a disadvantage in terms of morale. One wielded a giant bone spike, and the other a heavy crescent shovel, stirring the Xianxia realm with their rules in motion. Jiang Chengxuan and Saint Extreme Yin, leading their forces, engaged in a chaotic battle that shook the heavens and the earth. This battle was a decisive fight, with Jiang Chengxuan and his allies resolved to eliminate their enemies, offering no chance for the deep-sea nomad saints to escape. Taking the initiative in the battle, Saint Frozen Heavens and Saint Extreme Yin seized control of the battlefield, encircling the deep-sea nomads, Tao integration saints. In the chaotic mix of Tao integration combat, rules materialized, and various colossal dharmic forms bombarded each other, with celestial treasures clashing in fierce combat. Jiang Chengxuan evolved the Tao of the 5 elements to its peak, controlling the birth and destruction of miniature worlds, suppressing this area with the highest rules. His golden void sword traversed the void with unmatched dominance, catching the deep-sea nomads, Tao integration saints off guard. 9 Rings Chain Extreme Mystic Light. Saint Extreme Yin, at the realm of Tao mastery, unleashed tremendous power in this battle. Previously besieged and ambushed by the deep-sea nomads, nearly facing death, he had harbored a deep resentment. Now, with his injuries healed and the Floodgate realm's momentum soaring against the dispirited deep-sea nomads, he frenziedly activated Tao rules, displaying extraordinary strength. Under such circumstances, the deep-sea nomads, Tao integration cultivators quickly suffered casualties, with several falling in battle. Jiang Chengxuan and Saint Extreme Yin unleashed astonishing power, directly slaying multiple Tao integration saints of the deep-sea nomads. As the battle intensified, the morale of the deep-sea nomads, leading saint, plummeted with each passing moment. Amidst the fierce battle, a voice from the system suddenly echoed in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Ding! System mission issued. Crush the enemy and achieve the feat of slaying 10 Tao integration saints. Hearing this system prompt, Jiang Chengxuan's fighting spirit soared even higher. Without any hesitation, he unleashed his terrifying power of Tao rules across the void, rivaling those at the Tao mastery realm. Cloud Piercer, 5 Elements Annihilation Light. Jiang Chengxuan deployed 2 major divine powers, launching an instantaneous assault on the enemy Tao integration cultivators. With Cloud Piercer silently piercing through the enemy's primordial spirit, the deep-sea nomad Tao integration saint immediately felt excruciating pain at the primordial spirit level. The next moment, the 5 Elements Annihilation Radiance, trailing blue, red, yellow, white, and blue trajectories, fiercely struck the primordial spirit-pierced deep-sea nomad Tao integration saint. The power of the 5 Elements Annihilation Light instantly ignited the enemy's internal 5 elements, causing a rapid collapse of their Tao rules along with the annihilation of the 5 elements. With these 2 divine powers unleashed, Jiang Chengxuan seized the opportunity to kill a Tao integration cultivator in an instant. Ding! Congratulations, host, for successfully slaying 2 Tao integration cultivators. Mission progress 20%. System's prompt followed, indicating that Jiang Chengxuan had slain his second Tao integration enemy. It seemed the system had also counted the deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivator he had killed when the mission started. The system is as reliable as ever, Jiang Chengxuan thought appreciatively. Then once more, the 5-colored radiance of blue, red, yellow, white, and blue flared behind him as he dove back into the fray. At times he summoned storms of sun-true fire. At others, he called forth a torrent of golden sword rain, or wielded the vast ocean beneath him to clash head-on with the enemy. Rumble! The complex and domineering power of the five elements Tao wreaked havoc in the void, pressing numerous deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivators into retreat. Under the cover of Saint Extreme Yin's 9 mystical ice rings and Shen Ruyan's 5 elements divine thunder, Jiang Chengxuan seized the moment to launch a deadly strike at another deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivator. This deep-sea nomad bore a giant turtle shell on his back, seemingly capable of guarding against the void, significantly reducing the power of all incoming attacks around him. As the deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivator retracted into his shell to dodge attacks, Jiang Chengxuan's red glow surged. With a hand seal, he launched an exceedingly bright ball of Sun True Fire directly at him. Rumble! The scorching Sun True Fire didn't explode upon impact, but instead encased and fiercely burned the target. Despite the deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivator's desperate attempts to use his Tao rules for defense, he was unable to resist and was ultimately burned to death inside his shell by Jiang Chengxuan, turning into ash. Jiang Chengxuan collected the turtle shell that was unharmed by the Sun True Fire, gaining another treasure. In just moments, he had slain another Tao integration cultivator, advancing the mission progress by another 10%. At this point, Saint Furious Wave and Saint Stormwave could no longer stand idly by. Watching the deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivators fall one by one, they realized they were at a life-and-death juncture. Furthermore, the overwhelming strength displayed by Jiang Chengxuan and his allies made it clear there was no retreat today. They threw away the thought of escaping. Despicable humans today, it's either you die or I live. Saint Furious Wave manifested his true form in an instant, his 1,000-foot figure roaring between heaven and earth. A grayish-white force emanated from his palms, and giant bone spikes rose from the surrounding sea, transforming into another form of his heaven-connecting spiritual treasure. Die! Under the mighty assault of Saint Furious Wave, countless giant bone spikes pierced through the void, hurtling towards everyone with cracks appearing in the void, showcasing the terrifying power of this move. However, Jiang Chengxuan advanced instead of retreating. He manifested the Tao of the five elements, instantly gaining control over an area, pulling the numerous bone spikes towards him instead of scattering them. Faced with this turn of events, everyone was momentarily stunned, their faces showing astonishment. Then they saw Jiang Chengxuan summon a profoundly mysterious power of Tao rules. His entire arm transformed into a shadow, encircled by looping rules. Hand of Samsara. In the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan swung his arm, and the power of Samsara Tao erupted instantly. Suddenly, everyone felt as if the heavens and the earth were overturning, the flow of dharmic power reversed, and their perceptions fading into nothingness. This was a divine power Jiang Chengxuan had comprehended himself, the hand of Samsara, utilizing the supreme power of Samsara Tao to twist everything, creating chaos in all aspects. Even the rule of Samsara could be reversed if one mastered the path of Samsara to its end. Under Jiang Chengxuan's unrestrained release of the power of Samsara, Saint Furious Wave felt his own power stagnate, losing control over the bone spikes. Following that, under the hand of Samsara, the area enveloped by the Tao of the five elements rapidly expanded and contracted. The terrifying power of Samsara made everyone feel their blood flowing backward. Samsara. With a spread of Jiang Chengxuan's hand, the bone spikes belonging to Saint Furious Wave twisted into spirals, then transformed into white spiral spikes, shooting out towards the surrounding deep-sea nomad cultivators. Saint Furious Wave's killer move turned into Jiang Chengxuan's killer move. The white spiraled spikes became faster and more deadly than before. The white bone spikes became a torrent that reaped the lives of the deep-sea nomad cultivators in an instant, penetrating countless beings. Under Jiang Chengxuan's control, more spikes targeted the Tao integration cultivators of the deep-sea nomads. Rumble. Due to the influence of the power of Samsara and the Tao of the five elements, many deep-sea nomads were caught off guard, pierced by the bone spikes, their lives extinguished and their Tao rules dissipated. Under the terrifying strike of the hand of Samsara, 3 deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivators were instantly killed. The mission progress suddenly reached 60%, which was a terrifying achievement. Dark clouds quickly filled the sky, the scene of Tao demise resembling the apocalypse. The deep-sea nomad army was intimidated by this tragic scene, their faces pale with fear, including the 2 leading powers who were visibly horrified. Jiang Chengxuan's strength, no matter how much it was overestimated, far exceeded their expectations. Die. Under this stirring scene, countless cultivators from the northern sky domain were invigorated, unleashing their spells and charging into battle. Jiang Chengxuan once again manifested his domain, summoning the Golden Void Sword to bombard the two leading deep-sea nomad cultivators. The war, propelled by Jiang Chengxuan's attack, accelerated towards its final phase. Facing Jiang Chengxuan in his prime, both Saint Furious Wave and Saint Stormwave felt overwhelmed, finding themselves suppressed by him alone. Furthermore, Saint Furious Wave, heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, had been largely destroyed under the hand of Samsara, severely limiting his ability to exert his full strength. With the domineering five elements Tao and a plethora of divine powers at his disposal, Jiang Chengxuan was not only holding his own against two opponents, but was actually gaining the upper hand. Moreover, Jiang Chengxuan was not fighting alone. Shen Ruyan, Saint Extreme Yin, and others were closely watching, ready to deliver fatal blows to the two deep-sea nomad leaders at any moment. Under such circumstances, the two were hard-pressed to utilize their full power. Jiang Chengxuan controlled the five elements annihilation light with one hand and wielded the Golden Void Sword with the other, moving freely between the two formidable opponents, attacking from both sides. Regardless of the oppressive power of the Tao mastery exerted by the leaders, within the protection of the miniature world of the five elements, Jiang Chengxuan remained unaffected. Even amidst the fierce battle, his understanding of the Tao fusion realm deepened further. As the battle intensified, the tide completely turned in favor of the counterattacking forces of the Floodgate realm. Throughout the various battlefronts, the cultivators of the Floodgate realm manifested their Tao rules, inflicting severe injuries on the deep-sea nomad cultivators. Thousand Mountain Tsunami. In the most terrifying part of the battlefield, Saint Furious Wave wielded his crescent shovel, creating overlapping giant waves that combined into a mountainous blade of light, roaring towards its target. Golden Void Sword Attack. Behind Jiang Chengxuan, a golden light surged, transforming the Golden Void Sword into a brilliant golden path that charged directly towards the oncoming blade of light. The collision of these formidable Tao rule forces was like the sky collapsing, instantly blasting a 100-meter-deep pit into the sea surface. In the next moment, Saint Furious Wave launched a surprise attack from behind Jiang Chengxuan, his enormous figure pressing down with a bone staff. This strike was long planned, emerging from the void to catch Jiang Chengxuan off guard. However, he seemed to forget that another deep-sea nomad leader had attempted a similar sneak attack on Jiang Chengxuan just days before. At the critical moment, a five-colored divine light quietly shot out, sweeping across Saint Furious Wave's entire body in an instant. Suddenly, Saint Furious Wave's face showed terror as he felt his dharmic power begin to freeze, and his Tao rules solidify. The five-colored divine light, a divine power Jiang Chengxuan could only use once a day, always guaranteed to inflict maximum damage when deployed. Thus, with a ferocious gleam in his eyes and a surge of murderous intent, Jiang Chengxuan concentrated the five-colored brilliance in his hand. With a swift movement, he pressed this five elements annihilation light directly onto Saint Furious Wave's head. Rumble! An earth-shattering surge of dharmic power exploded instantly, the force of five elements annihilation light permeating the universe. This strike, with Saint Furious Wave utterly unprepared, hit a critical weakness precisely. The five elements annihilation light, Jiang Chengxuan's intrinsic divine power, possessed the power to slay Tao fusion cultivators. Now, as it passed instantly through the unguarded head of Saint Furious Wave, there was only one possible outcome. Saint Furious Wave's head disappeared into thin air under the strike, leaving a headless body that gradually dissolved. The crowd was horrified. The fall of a leading saint of such stature was unprecedented in history. The Floodgate realm's first counterattack had successfully slain an enemy leader. Standing before the headless corpse of Saint Furious Wave, Jiang Chengxuan intimidated countless enemies. Witnessing this, the morale of the deep-sea nomad army completely collapsed. Jiang Chengxuan's strike had definitively secured the victory. Even Saint Stormwave, upon witnessing the fate of Saint Furious Wave, couldn't help but feel his resolve waver. "Next, it's your turn," Jiang Chengxuan declared, stepping over the body of Saint Furious Wave as he advanced towards his next target. This great battle, unsurprisingly, concluded in victory. Led by Jiang Chengxuan in a surprise attack, seizing the initiative until the decimation of the leaders solidified their triumph. Even the last Saint Stormwave, overwhelmed in the siege, fell to Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword. As Jiang Chengxuan's void sword caught up with and struck down a fleeing deep-sea nomad Dao integration cultivator, the system's voice finally echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for defeating the enemy army and achieving the feat of slaying 10 Dao integration cultivators. Received system reward, Dao Rule of Samsara. This time, the system provided only one reward, seemingly stingy given the high difficulty of the task. Yet Jiang Chengxuan harbored no such thoughts. The award of the Dao Rule of Samsara filled him with exhilaration. Dao rules, the most potent weapons of cultivators, require constant refinement and comprehension to gradually master their power, for they arise from the cosmos, embodying its essence. However, the Samsara Dao Rule awarded by the system represents a pure force of Dao Rule, unaffiliated with any world. This means Jiang Chengxuan can refine, absorb, and integrate it into his Dao without needing any comprehension or spending a long time. Immediately, he sought a quiet place, eager to absorb and refine this Samsara Dao Rule. This rule seemed like a fragment, shrouded in the divine light of Samsara. Upon contact, Jiang Chengxuan felt his own power of Samsara excitedly pulsating. In an instant, he seemed to gaze into the cosmos' depths, which was profound and vast. Then, Samsara Dao Rule flowed into his consciousness, unveiling the mysteries of Samsara. What is Samsara? Where does Samsara originate from? Where is the end of Samsara? These elucidations on Samsara were gradually discerned by Jiang Chengxuan. Within the demonstrations of the Samsara Dao principle, he saw the past, countless iterations of himself, until everything ultimately returned to silence. Around Jiang Chengxuan, the Dao of the 5 elements had evolved to its pinnacle. A massive world domain unfolded with him at its center. In this 5 elements world, all things were born and perished. Fires blazed, seas surged, mountains rose, forests grew, and metals gleamed. The elements freely transformed, endlessly cycling. As the Samsara Dao Rule was absorbed by Jiang Chengxuan, this world began to reveal the path of Samsara. Souls were reborn from death, and the spark of wisdom lit upon inanimate things. Rivers flowed backward, and the sun and moon reversed. As his understanding of the Samsara Dao Rule deepened, the world grew more mysterious. The power of Samsara transformed decay into wonder, achieving the reversal of yin and yang. Once the evolution subsided, Jiang Chengxuan had mastered a higher level of the Samsara Dao Rule. Furthermore, the integration of the Samsara Dao Rule with the Dao of the 5 elements produced even stronger effects. His comprehension of Samsara's divine power also reached a higher level. At this moment, with the battlefield cleared and the entire deep-sea nomad army slain, everyone looked towards Jiang Chengxuan with a mix of astonishment, reverence, and fear in their eyes. I've gained some insights during the battle, Jiang Chengxuan said with a smile as he reined in his Dao Rule and stood up. The others came to their senses and approached him with congratulations. Now that the enemy of the northern sky domain has been dealt with, it's time for us to depart, Jiang Chengxuan addressed Saint Extreme Yin and Saint Frozen Heavens. Neither attempted to detain him further, merely expressing deep gratitude. Brother Chengxuan, everyone, farewell. Should you need our assistance in the future, we will not hesitate to help, Saint Extreme Yin called out as he watched Jiang Chengxuan and his companions turn into streaks of light, speeding away. The full counterattack was not yet over. Perhaps the other 6 domains were still engaged in bitter struggles. Having subdued both the eastern and northern sky domains, Jiang Chengxuan instructed the other Dao integration saints to go back while he, accompanied by Shen Ruyan, hurried to support the other domains. At this moment, the entire floodgate realm was ablaze, engaged in a relentless struggle. In the celestial floodgate realm, within the western sky domain. This domain is the most teeming with life among the 9 major domains, filled with endless towering trees and mists that never clear. It is a place of peril, where even cultivators tread with caution. Legends tell of the western sky domain being a fragment from another world that fell into the floodgate realm, thus coming into existence. However, this tale remains unverified, a legend without proof. Cultivation sects near the western sky domain always warn their disciples of its strangeness, of the dense fog that contains the power of the Dao rules. Those who enter without permission, often 1 in 10, do not survive, either becoming nourishment for the domain or turning into trees themselves. But now these old rules have been shattered. With the invasion of the three realms, the Western Sky domain was the first to bear the brunt, its ancient forests cut down and plundered by foreign races. Even though the invading army suffered from the curse of the mists of the Northern Sky domain, losing many, they ultimately managed to force open the gates of the Western Sky domain, despite the consequences. The first battle between the sects guarding the Western Sky domain and the invading Eldars started then. The fierce battle between the two sides continued for over a decade, nearly destroying the primordial forests of the Western Sky domain. Now the Western Sky domain has become a land of black ash, covered in burnt wood and corpses, the ground raised by several meters. The original fog of the giant forests has turned into eternal black smoke, spreading across the entire Western Sky domain. The fog that once only led cultivators astray has become a force filled with corruption and destruction. In the battlefield of the Western Sky domain, the situation was reversed in an instant after the Daelords of the Floodgate realm announced a full counterattack. Hearing of their Daelords' defeat, the Eldarian army began to retreat, daring not to stay longer. However, the cultivators guarding the Western Sky were not about to let the enemy leave easily. At this moment, atop the remnants of the giant forests in the Western Sky domain, the two armies had been engaged in a pursuit for several days. The Eldars sought to flee, the humans aimed to pursue. Thus they clashed, erupting into hundreds of battles. However, thanks to the numerous ambushes set up by the Eldars during their previous occupation, they managed to retreat step by step back to their own world. Damn it, these despicable Eldars, setting up traps everywhere. Are we really going to let them escape? At the forefront of the army guarding the Western Sky domain was a Tao mastery cultivator from the Xianxia sect. At this moment, he was fervently chasing the enemy, but was obstructed by a Tao mastery of the Eldars, leaving him no choice but to curse in anger. Aside from him, the other cultivators could not catch up, and the Eldarian army was about to cross the barrier. The Tianling realm, unlike other realms, was a sanctuary for the Eldars. If they returned, it would be like fish entering the sea, making it perilous for humans to follow. The hard-won opportunity for a counterattack seemed to be slipping away, deeply disheartening the master of the Xianxia sect. After exchanging a strike across the void with the Eldarian leader, his figure halted, knowing the chance was completely lost. Here, even the Eldarian Tao mastery cultivator couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But at that moment, an anomaly occurred. Suddenly, two incredibly fast streaks of light tore through the sky, carrying an overwhelmingly dominant aura, and arrived directly at the forefront, surpassing everyone. Then, the two figures fiercely landed on the ground, directly blocking the path of the tens of thousands of the Eldarian army. Suddenly, several massive mountain ranges rose from the ground out of nowhere, forcefully stopping the Eldarian army in its tracks. Who dares seeking death? Just as the Eldarian army was about to find their way out, chaos suddenly erupted. Watching the army's formation scatter and begin to trample each other, the Eldarian Tao mastery cultivator, furious beyond measure, surged forward with a booming power. Five-color annihilation light. Above the mountain peaks, the silhouettes flying in burst into a sudden explosion of green, red, yellow, white, and blue radiance. A five-colored light, carrying an aura of annihilation, instantly met the challenge. Rumble! Their collision in midair unleashed a terrifying force, causing the mountains that rose from the ground to collapse. However, this did not pave a way of escape for the Eldarian army. Instead, the collapsing mountains brought disaster upon many Eldars. Damn it, damn it! The Eldars were furious. Countless Tao integration Eldarian cultivators rushed out and attacked the enemy. But then, a vast domain of the five elements unfolded, mixed with the overpowering force of the cycle of samsara. The many Eldar Tao masters had barely taken flight when, in the next moment, they were repelled by the domain. This sent a chill down the spines of countless Eldar cultivators, a cold dread enveloping their hearts. Ha ha ha, excellent. Merely moments of delay allowed countless human cultivators to encircle from behind, cutting off the Eldar army's retreat. Those who had thought the Eldars had escaped were taken aback to find that, with just two people, tens of thousands of Eldars were blocked. And these newcomers were none other than Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Since you're here, why not stay a bit longer? Facing the furious Eldar cultivators, Jiang Chengxuan spoke lightly. With the five elements mini-world, integrated with the rule of samsara, he was confident in holding back even numerous Tao mastery cultivators. Death Spear. Seeing the foe who jeopardized the Eldar's path of survival being so arrogant, the Eldar Tao mastery lost his reason. Summoning his heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, he transformed it into a beam of black light that shot forth. But with a wave of Jiang Chengxuan's arm, the five elements diagram was instantly unveiled, followed by an explosion of golden light as the golden void sword appeared out of nowhere. The rules manifested by the two clashed thousands of times in an instant in the void, with the Eldar Tao mastery fighting desperately. Yet no matter what, he couldn't break through Jiang Chengxuan's five elements samsara domain. Not just him, facing a moment of life and death, more than 10 Eldar Tao masters charged at Jiang Chengxuan together. Rather than trying to open a path for the Eldar army, it seemed more like they were trying to break through the chaos alone, seeking their own escape. But no matter their intentions, none of the Eldar Tao masters who entered the five elements samsara domain could break through, as if facing an insurmountable wall. The next moment, the high-ranking cultivators defending the Western Sky domain finally arrived, launching an assault on these Eldar Tao masters. This undoubtedly sealed their fate. With an impassable barrier ahead and pursuers behind, the once favorable situation was reversed by one man. Countless Eldar cultivators showed despair, their wills shattered, their helpless roars spreading throughout the Western Sky domain. No, I cannot accept this. I refuse to die in a foreign realm. Kill, exterminate the Eldars, protect our Western Sky. With Jiang Chengxuan's sudden emergence, the battle to eradicate the Eldar army in the Western Sky domain officially erupted at this moment, with great intensity. The counterattack in the Western Sky domain did not last too long. Historically, the Eldars excelled in assassination and guerrilla tactics. But now, due to Jiang Chengxuan's five elements samsara domain blocking them, the Eldars were completely trapped, like turtles in a jar. In this battle, Jiang Chengxuan hardly intervened. He merely maintained the five elements samsara domain, preventing any Eldar from escaping. The rest of the battle was almost entirely fought by the cultivators defending the Western Sky. They had waited too long for this day. Since the Eldar invasion of the Western Sky domain, over a decade of burning, killing, and looting had turned it into scorched earth. Although they were eager to engage the enemy in battle, the cunning Eldars dragged on the conflict, eroding their strength bit by bit, never giving them a chance. This left those defending the Western Sky extremely frustrated, yet helpless. Given the chance, they would not hesitate to fight to the death, even if it meant all of them perishing. The arrival of Jiang Chengxuan provided them with such an opportunity, and they were furious. The cultivators defending the Western Sky domain unleashed a decade's worth of pent-up strength in this battle. Every one of them is reaching their peak. When the dust settled, without any surprise, the army of the Western Sky domain completely annihilated the enemy. Seeing the corpses of the Eldar strewn about, countless human cultivators shed tears of vengeance. But when they turned to look for Jiang Chengxuan, they found he had already left. Without lingering, having completed his task, Jiang Chengxuan, carrying the belongings of the Eldar Tao Master, flew towards the next domain. In any domain that Jiang Chengxuan, a top-tier powerhouse undefeated under the Mahayana, joined, the outcomes of the counterattacks were predictable. Nearly every 5 days, with each domain Jiang Chengxuan visited, he immediately altered the situation on the battlefield, ending the conflict within 3 days. His reputation began to spread throughout the entire celestial floodgate realm, the point where many forgot that Jiang Chengxuan was, in fact, still at the Tao fusion level. But meanwhile, in the New World, a storm of counterattack was quietly brewing. Since the day 2, abyssal demon Daelords were slain by an immortal treasure. Some began to notice that the power of the demons invading the New World had suddenly weakened a lot. Clearly, the direct fall of 2 Mahayana Daelords had an impact on the entire abyssal world. Each Mahayana Daelord was, in a sense, part of the world. Their demise meant the world's Tao would be affected. Under such circumstances, the abyssal demon territories relying on attacks against the New World began to shrink. And the demonic chi emitted from the abyssal fortresses was diminishing exponentially. Abyssal demons inherently rely on demonic chi for combat, marking their fundamental difference from other beings. The reduction in demonic chi greatly weakened the abyssal demon army, more significantly than anything else. Many abyssal demons are fallen beings from other worlds. Thus, they constantly absorb the power of the abyss, maintain the demonic force of their Tao. Now, as the abyssal power seeping into the new world began to decline, many abyssal demons could no longer draw upon the abyss's power, leading to a noticeable decline in their combat effectiveness. As days passed, more and more forces defending the new world noticed this change. Even without the guidance of a Daelord, they gradually started plans to clear out the abyssal demons. Countless squads of cultivators stepped out of their designated defense zones, beginning to probe into the territory of the abyssal demons. Along the way, they distinctly felt the demonic Chi's invasion weakening, and the abyssal demons they encountered were no longer as fierce as before. This undoubtedly hinted to everyone the opportunity to counterattack had arrived. Gradually, more and more teams of cultivators sent by various forces became larger and ventured deeper into abyssal territories. And when they encountered the higher-level abyssal demon who had previously led invasions, seeing their no longer vigorous states brought immense joy to their hearts. The abyssal world was in trouble, affecting even the high-ranking abyssal demons. In an instant, such news swiftly spread throughout the new world, and all forces began to amass for a counteroffensive. At this time, Xianxia, who had just finished the domain counterattack battle, also received a summons from his sect. The situation in the new world had changed, with anomalies in the abyssal world leading to a significant decline in the abyssal demons' combat effectiveness. The sect elders hoped that Xianxia could assist in the new world's battlefront because, during this period, his achievements in the counterattacks across the 9 domains had been remarkably brilliant. Xianxia did not hesitate to accept this request. As he and Shen Ruyan traversed the 9 domains, the invasion of the 3 realms had been thoroughly crushed, with countless dead and wounded. It can be said that the foolish dreams and ambitions of the 3 realms had been completely shattered, and they would not have the chance to rise again for tens of thousands of years. Although the celestial floodgate realm also suffered heavy losses. As the victors of the war, their recovery speed was incomparable to the defeated 3 realms. It's likely that within 100 years, the celestial floodgate realm would return to its peak with the resources brought by victory, while the 3 realms, due to their defeat, were more likely to be caught in internal strife and reorganization. At that time, the celestial floodgate realm would probably completely control a region of the Tianling realm. Now, as long as they repelled the abyssal demons, the last step of the celestial floodgate realm would be ready. For Xianxia, there was no reason to refuse such an opportunity. Let's go. Xianxia quickly returned to the Haoran sect with Shen Ruyan, meeting with the elder responsible for defending against the abyssal demons in the New World. Through this elder, they learned about the abyssal demons' situation during the war over the past decade. This included the distribution of demonic forces, information on several major demonic powers, and the distribution of their own combat strength, among other things. This was where Xianxia differed. No matter how much he was praised on the outside, it never made him lose his reason. Even though his strength had grown significantly, he still maintained caution and steadiness. From the beginning of his journey in this world to now, he never forgot the grandeur of this world. Always aware that beyond the heavens, a slight misstep could plunge one into the abyss, never to rise again. Thus, even with the battle situation being so favorable, he still came here to understand all the information. Elder Liu will be leaving now. See you again in the new world. A day later, Xianxia bid farewell to the sect elder and quickly headed to the Haoran sect's position in the new world with Shen Ruyan. Stepping into the new world, they saw the blood color in the sky gradually fading, revealing the familiar sight Xianxia knew. The years-long brutal war was finally showing signs of coming to an end. Xianxia, accompanied by Shen Ruyan, made their way across the new world, heading towards their defensive position. Throughout their journey, the air was thick with the sinister demonic Qi, with demonic fortresses piercing the skies everywhere, creating one blood-colored vortex after another. As demonic winds blew, black rain often fell from the vortexes, corroding the scarred earth with a fizzing sound. Despite the weakening of the abyssal demons' power to corrupt the world due to issues in the abyssal world, the new world was still shrouded in darkness. It could be seen how ruthless the abyssal demon army was back then. However, as they were a short distance from their destination, a surge of demonic chi suddenly rushed towards them from afar. The pitch-black demonic clouds, carrying a chilling aura, reached them in a few breaths, then spread out, forming a ring of demonic chi encircling them. Heh, to think there are still human cultivators wandering alone now, truly fearless of death. Behind the dark chi, abyssal demons danced, with figures of abyssal demons appearing one after another, baring their fangs at the two surrounded individuals. Throughout the years of war in the New World, the human side had always been in a defensive position, strictly prohibiting cultivators from leaving their posts to avoid surprise attacks by abyssal demons. Therefore, seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan alone, these demons approached without a second thought. Even though their demonic power had weakened, the presence of only two human cultivators hardly posed any threat to them. Among them, the leaders were three beings of Tao integration demons, which was a considerable force in the New World. As long as they stared at the movements of the leaders of the human base, it was almost impossible for them to turn the situation around. Human cultivators, your corpses will be a delightful feast for us, haha. One of the leading demons said, suddenly manifesting a giant claw, reaching out to grab Jiang Chengxuan. But the next moment, green, red, yellow, white, and blue radiance burst forth, instantly shattering the demon's foolish dreams. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not waste words with these demons, immediately unleashing their divine powers. The five elements divine thunder roared, the scorching light and thunder instantly dispersing the surrounding demonic clouds. This made the demons instantly realize something was wrong, but by then, it was too late for regrets. An even more terrifying five elements annihilation radiance burst forth, instantly turning the area into a realm of light, where everything ceased to exist. The three Tao integration demons didn't even have time to summon their demonic treasures, before being instantly obliterated by the five elements annihilation radiance. The other Tao integration demons, under the interweaving of the five-colored divine light and the five elements thunder, turned directly into ash. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan eliminated this team of demons with just one move, such was their terrifying power. However, in the midst of the fierce explosion, a pitch-black shadow quietly emerged, silently escaping. Damn it, who exactly are these two? This was the primordial spirit of one of the abyssal demons, who had a special ability to turn his primordial spirit into a ghostly shadow, making it very secretive. At this moment, he was filled with immense fear, not daring to stay a moment longer, fleeing towards the retreating abyssal demon army. In fact, half a day earlier, the demon army had already begun retreating, consolidating their territories. They intended to return to their demon fortresses to resist the human counterattack, unwilling to easily relinquish the new world they had consumed. And this small team of demons that had surrounded Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan was actually led by three Tao integration demon leaders who had ventured out on their own, hoping to scoop up one last victory before the retreat. But unexpectedly, they ran directly into Jiang Chengxuan, the Grim Reaper, and were instantly annihilated. This private outing led by them resulted in heavy losses and was bound to be severely punished upon their return. But he thought of passing on Jiang Chengxuan's information to the army, perhaps to offset their failure. The shadow formed by this demon's primordial spirit, not daring to linger for a moment, fled tirelessly for a day and a night before finally arriving at the location of the demon army. His exhausted expression finally showed a hint of relief. Despite the heavy losses, he had ultimately escaped death. As for what comes next, his mind was busy plotting their next move, but he hadn't noticed a hand already clasping the back of his neck. His spirit was massively shocked, and turning his head, he saw Jiang Chengxuan, a cold smile playing on his lips. No, no! He tried to scream, only to find in despair that his primordial spirit had been bound by the force of the Tao. Thank you for leading the way, we shall not meet again. Jiang Chengxuan spoke slowly, then with a flash of fire in his hand, the abyssal demon's shadowy form instantly disappeared from this world. Even the nearby demonic army didn't notice, as the demon was cast into the eternal sun furnace, turning into nourishment for the five elements diagram. Husband, you truly are ingeniously cunning. Shen Ruyan chuckled, covering her mouth. Clearly, the escape of this abyssal demon's primordial spirit was intentionally allowed by Jiang Chengxuan. He and Shen Ruyan had actually been following this demon all along, leading them to the location of the demonic army in the end. However, this place harboring a demonic army did not match the information Jiang Chengxuan had received from the elder before coming to the new world. After carefully observing for a moment, Jiang Chengxuan noticed the immense scale of this demonic army, nearly 5 to 6 times the size given by the sect's information. Thus, this meant several abyssal demonic armies had converged here. Jiang Chengxuan instantly understood the enemy's intentions. With 4 to 5 armies converging, it seems the demons planned to retreat to their fortress. He turned and said to Shen Ruyan, "Indeed, at this time it's impossible for the demons to be launching a total assault. They must be retreating." Shen Ruyan, quick-witted, immediately grasped Jiang Chengxuan's meaning. "Let's pass the message to the nearby sects defending this area to intercept the demonic army. We can play around with these demons for a bit," Jiang Chengxuan said. Then he took out a special communication treasure, which transformed into several azure lights and disappeared into the void, spreading the message far and wide. Having done everything necessary, they no longer hesitated and concealed their presence, moving closer to the demonic army. As they neared the demonic army, the demonic in the air thickened until it obscured the light. Countless demons of various appearances, each more grotesque than the last, were utterly unnerving, like a collection of randomly assembled organs. Jiang Chengxuan's consciousness swept silently over the entire demonic army, detecting after some investigation the presence of several Tao integration-level beings. Such strength was nearly equivalent to the force the foreign races had deployed when attacking the eastern sky domain. Even though there were only 2 of them now, the 2 of them looked at each other with determination in their eyes. Chapter 941, System Task, Slaying Demons /1. As Jiang Chengxuan was poised to strike, a mechanical voice from the system unexpectedly echoed in his mind. "Ding! System task issued. Please accomplish the task of slaying 1,000 abyssal demons." Jiang Chengxuan felt a surge of joy. The timing of this system task couldn't be more perfect, arriving just as he was about to make his move, without any waste. With this, Jiang Chengxuan planned to unleash his full power. The demonic qi soared to the skies as an army of over 10,000 demons marched, with several demons as large as mountains spanning the heavens and earth. In the midst of this demonic frenzy, suddenly, a magnificent light burst forth within the ranks of the demonic army. In an instant, a terrifying power descended like a divine light from the sky, obliterating hundreds of lower-level demons in a single breath. The progress bar for Jiang Chengxuan's task of slaying 1,000 abyssal demons jumped significantly. "What's happening? Who's there? An enemy?" This sudden attack sent shockwaves through the ranks of the 10,000-strong demonic army, with the leaders of the abyssal demons utterly astonished. The attack erupted in the center of the demonic army, causing massive disruption to their march. Moreover, their retreat had been conducted in such a covert and swift manner. How could an enemy have possibly launched an attack on them? However, the assault did not end with their astonishment. In the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan unleashed their thunderous methods again, with Tao rules manifesting instantaneously and divine powers striking forth. Intensely hot lightning, ceaselessly powerful, the Tao of the 5 elements unfolded in an instant, followed by the 5 thunder immortal slayer, and the golden void sword cutting through the void at lightning speed, sweeping through the demons. This time, although many demons were psychologically prepared, the location Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan chose for their attack left the abyssal demons with no chance to evade. Moreover, the power of the 2 was far beyond that of these surrounding lower-level abyssal demons. Rumble! A terrifying wave of dharmic power transformed into a chaotic storm, as Jiang Chengxuan once again slaughtered countless demons, turning them into ash. The system's voice echoed in his mind. The task of slaying 1,000 demons undoubtedly jumped forward significantly once again. "Human cultivators, you're courting death." It was only then that the leaders of the abyssal demons caught a glimpse of their true adversary. They were just 2 human cultivators, and the strongest among them was merely at the Tao integration realm. This took them by surprise once more. Just 2 individuals were daring to act so boldly. Seeing this, the leading Tao integration-level demons could not help but unleash their fury. Demonic qi soared to the skies, with the dark and blood-red laws of the abyss unfolding, instantly surrounding Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan in a deadly assault. At this moment, no fewer than 5 Tao integration demons made their move, their might terrifying, overturning day and night, transforming the sky into a scene of the demonic abyss. But faced with these 5 demons, Jiang Chengxuan stood undaunted. The 5 elements domain contracted into a shield, enveloping both him and Shen Ruyan, resisting the influence of the manifested demonic abyss. In a normal battle, the manifestation of demonic abyssal phenomena would reduce the combat effectiveness of non-demonic cultivators by 30 to 40%. But within the unified rules of the 5 elements world, it was utterly useless. The next moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan once again summoned their intrinsic treasures. 2 beams of righteous energy surged forth, instantly meeting the demons' assault head-on. Rumble! For the 3rd time, a terrifying aura spread out. The collision caused by the Dao fusion level attacks once again killed the nearby demons. Although some demons had already started to flee, Jiang Chengxuan still reaped a significant harvest. With this strike, the progress of his task surpassed 50%, which could indeed be described as lightning fast. The attacks of the 5 Dao fusion demons were easily blocked by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, leaving them once again astonished, almost beyond belief. Even with absolute numerical superiority at the same realm, how could this be the outcome? Moreover, these 2 peculiar human cultivators seemed entirely unaffected by the manifestation of the demonic abyss. At first contact, they understood that these 2 came prepared, with a strong foundation of power. But facing an army of over 10,000 demons, even Dao mastery cultivators would need to weigh their chances. Attack with all your might, kill them. The 5 cunning abyssal demon leaders, without any arrogance, directly issued the command for all demons to attack simultaneously. For those who had waged war against human cultivators for years, they had encountered the cunning of humanity, which was in no way inferior to that of demons. At this time, even though there were only 2 opponents, they decided to go all out. In an instant, tens of thousands of demons roared, the sky's manifestation of the demonic abyss trembled unceasingly, and the sinister, eerie demonic chi instantly descended. Following this, countless demons of various forms launched their attacks simultaneously. There were black spikes, eerie black mist, blood-red maws, and sky-covering demonic palms. Tens of thousands of demonic techniques instantly covered the sky, enveloping Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. At this moment, the area was like the arrival of the demonic abyss, with the demon leaders smirking coldly. No matter how powerful you are, it's impossible to fight against 10,000 alone. But from Jiang Chengxuan's perspective, he had anticipated all of this. Everything was within his calculations. With a grand gesture, the 5 elements world expanded again, instantly enveloping the airspace, grasping countless demon attacks. Then the Tao of Samsara began to circulate, the world inverted, and the 5 elements manifested in reverse. The eerie power of the Tao directly twisted space, causing all the attacks from the tens of thousands of demons to start warping and deforming. This scene was like a miracle. Countless demons instantly felt their souls in turmoil, then lost control of their spells. But the next moment, their attacks all flew back, targeting themselves. The Tao of Samsara, the Tao of the 5 elements, these are supreme rules that cannot be easily suppressed. Moreover, both Tao are of a nature that can overcome the hard with soft, no matter how many attacks from the demons. They would not directly affect the 2, but only be influenced by them. All of this was within Jiang Chengxuan's expectations. The tactic of overwhelming numbers had no effect on him. Under the reversed attacks by the Tao of Samsara, intricate as a meteor shower, they instantly turned against the demonic army. Despite the 5 Tao integration demons, powerful counterattacks, they did not possess laws like Jiang Chengxuan's. They could only forcibly block some of the rebounding attacks. Thus, another wave of terrifying dharmic power erupted among the demonic army, carrying out an extremely shocking harvest. At the same moment, Jiang Chengxuan saw the system's task of slaying 1,000 abyssal demons jump forward significantly. Under this reversal by the 5 elements in Samsara, at least 300 abyssal demons were slain by him. The 2, with their own strength and various overpowering methods, actually managed to hold off the demonic army. The ambush on over 10,000 demons by 2 humans resulted in hundreds of casualties in an instant, a direct affront to the pride of the 5 Tao fusion demon leaders. Today you will die. The leading abyssal demon roared, unable to contain his fury, his voice thunderous. The next moment, a massive demonic chi erupted from him, forming a giant black pillar that shot into the sky, connecting with the manifestations of the demonic abyss. A colossal black shadow obscured the demonic army in Xianxia, its numerous irregular demonic eyes staring down like blood moons. The true forms of the Tao fusion demons descended, like mountains formed of demonic qi, filled with the law of the demonic abyss, utterly malevolent and furious. And there weren't just one, but a total of 5 Tao fusion demons. Against the backdrop of endless demonic qi, 5 huge demonic silhouettes rose abruptly, reaching into the heavens. They couldn't exactly be described as dharmic forms. They were more like eerier creatures from beyond, barely resembling anything human. Their unevenly long tentacles flailed wildly, irregular demonic eyes rotated strangely, and various aberrant organs on their bodies were enough to drive one to madness. Despite having defended the abyssal demons for a century and fought extensively in this war, this was actually Jiang Chengxuan's first time witnessing the true forms of Tao fusion demons. If not for a war between two realms or sufficient interest, these demons would not easily step out of the demonic abyss. Generally, only those worlds targeted by the demonic abyss would witness their presence. In essence, these demons were the spokespersons of the demonic abyss. They wielded the projected powers of the demonic abyss, representing a kind of anomalous existence within the Tao. With the appearance of 5 Tao fusion demons, a terrifying pressure instantly swept across, even stronger than that of demonic beasts. After all, abyssal demons were entities that defied common sense and rules, a combination of deep-seated evil wills, making them akin to a unique kind of inner demon for ordinary cultivators. However, for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, with their steadfast Tao hearts, such presences had no effect. Only a Mahayana Dailord demon might possibly unsettle their deep-seated wills. Roar, roar! 5 massive demonic silhouettes roared simultaneously, and in an instant, tens of thousands of demons joined in the roar, their momentum shaking the heavens. Numerous huge demonic bodies and tentacles suppressed from the sky, stirring up fierce winds and heavily smashing towards the two. Jiang Chengxuan, with his left hand, took out the azure sky seal, instantly activating it, casting auspicious shadows that formed a protective barrier, directly blocking the assault. Rumble! The ground instantly erupted with thunder, the aftershocks of their collision causing the land to shatter for miles around. But it was far from over. After Jiang Chengxuan blocked the demon leader's strike, the attacks from the other Tao fusion demons immediately followed. A tempest of demonic qi furiously bombarded them, huge black pillars scattering everywhere, blasting dark holes into the void. This was a clash of Tao fusion forces. Jiang Chengxuan fully activated the azure sky seal, its dazzling light shield shining like the sun. A chaotic flow of terrifying dharmic powers was born, clearing the smoke of battle, with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan still standing firmly. Only the ground around them had been carved into a massive pit, leaving only the mountain under their feet untouched. Jiang Chengxuan looked at the azure sky seal in his hand. This defensive treasure, after withstanding the joint attack of 5 Tao fusion demons, had dimmed slightly, indicating the terrifying power of the Tao fusion demons. Is that all there is to it? That was Jiang Chengxuan's assessment. These demons, combining their powers, might be equivalent to the strength of a Tao mastery level. But Jiang Chengxuan had personally slain Tao mastery level beings. Let me handle one as well, Shen Ruyan said, eager to try. Watching Jiang Chengxuan's strength grow ever stronger, Shen Ruyan naturally refused to be left behind. Moreover, she had also slain Tao fusion level opponents with her 5 lightning immortal slayer. All right. As soon as Jiang Chengxuan finished speaking, the two transformed into beams of divine light, soaring towards the vault of heaven. Shen Ruyan manifested her Tao rule, turning into a true form of lightning spirit. The raging 5 elements divine thunder clung to her body, dazzlingly bright. She charged towards the giant hand extended by the demon, and the intense lightning instantly burned a huge bloody hole through it. Simultaneously, Jiang Chengxuan evolved the 5 elements samsara domain to its extreme, with a radiant display of 5-colored divine light behind him. Green, red, yellow, white, and blue hues transformed into a flowing ribbon and flew forward. The terrifying 5 elements annihilation light instantly made the abyssal demon leaders feel a hint of fear. Sharing the same Tao fusion realm, Jiang Chengxuan's dharmic power terrified them. The leading abyssal demon, resembling a spider demon, opened its maw wide. spewing out a black poisonous cloud that corroded everything. But the five elements annihilation light paused only for a moment before dispersing the poison fog, then directly penetrated the mouth of that demon leader. This demon desperately mobilized the power of its rules. Its swallowing ability surged, attempting to directly consume the five elements annihilation light. However, it clearly underestimated the level of the five elements Tao. The five-colored annihilation light moved within its massive demonic body, entangled with the dark swallowing Tao, yet remained undiminished. Gradually, the spider demon leader's face twisted, sores appearing all over its body. In this duel they thought was sure to win, it was clear they had lost. The five elements annihilation light rampaged inside its body, nearly tearing it apart. Impossible, impossible. The demon leader let out a shrill roar, and the next moment, the five-colored annihilation light burst forth explosively. The giant spider-like demon's belly suddenly swelled enormously, with five-colored light shining through its flesh. Rumble! The clash between the five elements Tao and the swallowing Tao didn't result in a decisive outcome, but such power was clearly too much for the spider demon to bear. The explosion spread rapidly. The demon leader's body instantly turned into countless pieces of flesh, scattering everywhere. Chaotic Tao powers wandered in the void, spreading the scent of destruction. This scene silenced tens of thousands of abyssal demons in an instant, millions of bizarre faces simultaneously showing terror. A Tao fusion-level abyssal demon was actually slain by Jiang Chengxuan with a single move. The other three Tao fusion demon leaders' pupils shrank, showing fear for the first time. Since the start of the war of invasion into the New World, the number of fallen Tao fusion-level abyssal demons was countable, and those were either ambushed or killed by divine treasures. Unexpectedly, right before their eyes, a human cultivator had slain a Tao fusion-level demon leader with a single move. Yet in Jiang Chengxuan's mind, the system task's progress only ticked up by 1,000. Still a long way to go. Jiang Chengxuan muttered, clearly not surprised by the outcome. His whisper, like a thunderclap, resonated in the ears of tens of thousands of demons, suddenly making them feel less arrogant. Look at what this human said. Isn't it 100 times more outrageous than the demons themselves? He was not surprised at all that an abyssal demon of the same level was killed by him. But the fact is, Jiang Chengxuan killed a Tao fusion-level demon with a single move, without any hint of joy. This left tens of thousands of abyssal demons feeling a mix of shock, anger, and fear, quite a complex mix of emotions. Indeed, the death of the spider demon was largely due to its greed. In fact, what killed it was the conflict between the demonic abyss rule it borrowed and Jiang Chengxuan's five elements rule. Under normal circumstances, it might have only been severely injured by the five elements annihilation light, instead of having its demonic soul utterly destroyed. With the mission unfinished, Jiang Chengxuan naturally had no intention of stopping. The next moment, golden light surged in his hands, summoning the five elements diagram, which then transformed into the most lethal golden void sword. Golden void sword attack. Jiang Chengxuan pointed forward, and the golden void sword turned into an explosive beam of light, striking with extreme speed. This sword, like a celestial river descending from the sky, shattered the void. The remaining three Tao fusion demon leaders hastily summoned their demonic treasures and manifested their rules to intercept. Terrifying demonic chi from all directions assaulted the golden light, some transforming into black thorny demon flowers, others into blood-red bizarre demon beasts, and some into nebulous ghostly shadows twisting the void. Various sinister abyssal rules erupted, entangling Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword, tearing and gnawing at it. The combined force of the three great demons halted even the golden void sword, mirroring it in a quagmire, preventing it from advancing further. It could only maintain its brilliance. But just as the demon leaders breathed a sigh of relief, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly made another move. Five-colored divine light. Maintaining the golden void sword's brilliance with one hand, Jiang Chengxuan tapped his forehead with the other, releasing an immensely grand aura. Tens of thousands of demons felt a burst of light in the sky, as if a supreme being had flashed into existence. The five elements Tao circulated at its peak, and a majestic five-colored divine light blasted out instantly. The five-colored divine light swept over the three great Tao fusion demons, demonic treasures, and their manifested rules. In an instant, they felt as if the heavens and earth were overturning, their consciousnesses plunging into the abyss. All their dharmic power, demonic power, and rules instantly distancing from them. In that moment, the golden void sword immediately broke through all restrictions, slashing towards the closest Tao fusion demon leader. The demon leader's numerous eyes widened to their limits, unable to mobilize its full strength. Could only watch helplessly as the terrifying golden void sword pierced through its chest, leaving a horrifying hole. Then the five elements Tao invaded, and although the five-colored divine light's effect passed, allowing its dharmic power to return, its life force could no longer be salvaged. Under the combination of two major moves, Jiang Chengxuan had slain another Tao fusion demon leader, which was a terrifying feat. Due to the fall of two abyssal demon leaders, the manifestation of the demonic abyss in the sky began to shake violently, as if about to collapse. In an instant, all abyssal demons could feel their strength waning. Actually, they were already weakened after the death of a Mahayana Dailord of the demonic abyss, and now they felt even more diminished. Rumble! Another battlefield thundered explosively, as if countless thunder gods were beating drums, hurling spears of lightning. Shen Ruyan, leveraging the restraining power of the five elements' divine thunder against demonic beings, already had the upper hand. The tremors of the demonic abyss manifestation gave her the opening to unleash her power, severely wounding the enemy. In a moment, 2.5 of the 5 Tao fusion demon leaders were down, and the demon army suffered heavy casualties. The remaining demon leaders were in despair, their mood shifting from bloodthirsty to hopeless in just a brief moment. At that time, streaks of light suddenly appeared in the distant sky, all emanating a vast aura of righteousness. Unquestionably, they were all disciples of the Haoran sect. Having received Jiang Chengxuan's message, they rushed to provide support, fearing the vice-sect master might encounter danger. But upon their arrival, they were greeted by such a scene. "Vice-sect master, we've arrived." Their commanding shout to intimidate the enemy forces was cut short mid-sentence. Facing the despondent demon army, they fell into contemplation. Looking over the battlefield, they realized a great battle had taken place, and then seeing the remnants of 2 Tao fusion demon leaders, they were all stunned in place. They thought they were coming to put out a fire, not realizing they were actually there to clean up the aftermath. "Hear my command, leave none alive." But Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate and immediately erupted with momentum, his voice booming like a great bell. His voice instantly roused the Haoran sect disciples who had come to aid. Several Tao integration saints flew out first, manifesting their Tao rule, conjuring spells to attack the demon leaders. The other void returning and low-level cultivators also reacted and released their spells and divine powers. They shot towards the demon army like raindrops. In an instant, a full-scale battle erupted, with tens of thousands of demons clashing like a tidal wave against the reinforcements from the Haoran sect. However, with the manifestation of the demonic abyss encountering issues, these abyssal demons were naturally no match for the battle-hardened garrison forces of the New World. Just one round of assault confirmed the advantage was with the Haoran sect's forces. This battle, from the moment Jiang Chengxuan dragged out the demon race, slaughtering the demon leaders, they just needed to arrive, and it was already a declared victory without any doubt. After the Haoran sect saints rushed out to encircle and kill the demon leaders, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly found himself with some free time. He supported his own sect saints in exterminating the demon leaders with the 5 elements diagram, while also beginning to tackle the system's task. Now that the full-scale battle had erupted, he had no need for restraint, wielding 5 element spells in his hands, mercilessly slaughtering the demon army. A flash of golden light, an endless true sun fire fell like a rain of fire, instantly engulfing the demon army, turning them into nourishment for the soil of the New World. The blue Tao rule of water evolved, and giant waves appeared out of thin air in the sky, and the land turned into a swamp, like a merciless maw, swallowing one abyssal demon after another. The 5 element spells were effortlessly cast in Jiang Chengxuan's hands. Meanwhile, in his mind, the system task progress was skyrocketing. With each spell cast, the task progress leaped a little, then started to grow exponentially. This area became a veritable graveyard for demons. Even the demonic abyss manifestation couldn't bear to watch, gradually dissipating. No one expected the first counterattack battle of the human cultivators against the demons to end so suddenly in victory. The battle to exterminate the abyssal demons lasted for several days, turning the skies different colors. With the human cultivators' army already holding the advantage in strength against the demoralized demon army, the outcome of this war, under such favorable conditions, was naturally without any suspense. As the last Dao fusion demon leader fell to Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer, not a single complete demon could be seen in the area anymore. On the scarred land, pieces of demonic flesh were scattered everywhere, with black blood pooling into rivers, and various sinister remnants from the abyss lying across the battlefield, emitting eerie auras. The corpses of the 5 Dao fusion demon leaders were particularly conspicuous, all heavily wounded, resembling mined-out mountains, with only their demonic auras unwilling to dissipate and still proclaiming their once glorious existence. Countless Haoran sect and New World garrison cultivators found this scene surreal, hard to believe. After battling the abyssal demons for years, they knew all too well the cruelty and ferocity of these demons, which was hair-raising. Yet now, those demons who had killed countless human cultivators and plundered numerous treasures of the New World were slaughtered and eradicated. Tens of thousands of demon troops with not a single survivor were all annihilated. Even after battling the abyssal demons relentlessly for over a decade, they had never achieved such miraculous results as they did today. Moreover, this tens of thousands strong demon army was originally planning a secret retreat from the battle zone. Had they managed to pull back to their demonic fortresses, the difficulty of exterminating them would have increased tenfold. Regardless, in this battle, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan played pivotal roles, creating a miraculous outcome in the New World's war against the abyssal demons. However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's attention was drawn to the system's voice in his mind. After eradicating the abyssal demon army, completing the task of slaying 1,000 abyssal demons naturally followed, he received his reward. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving the feat of slaying 1,000 abyssal demons. Receive system reward, 300 arts of cultivation pills. Upon consumption, any one of the 100 arts of cultivation skills will break through. However, the cultivation art that achieves breakthrough via this method will not be eligible for system rewards again. Upon hearing the system's announcement, Jiang Chengxuan knew he had stumbled upon something valuable. 100 arts of cultivation pills, pills that could directly enhance the level of cultivation arts, were utterly astonishing. Every cultivation art requires one's own understanding and practice to reach a higher level. Unlike minor thresholds in cultivation, which just need a bit of insight and can be overcome with the accumulation of dharmic power and Tao, breaking through in cultivation arts often requires a breakthrough in self-awareness, achieving a higher level naturally. Yet the 100 arts of cultivation pill could defy common knowledge. How could Jiang Chengxuan not be surprised? Even though the breakthroughs achieved with this pill won't be eligible for system rewards, their value is still immense. As one advances to higher realms, breakthroughs become increasingly difficult, sometimes taking hundreds of years just to nudge slightly. Going forward, as his realm increases, it would be challenging for his cultivation arts to keep pace with his cultivation progress. The 100 arts of cultivation pill rewarded by the system undoubtedly solves a significant future problem for Jiang Chengxuan. Currently, his mastery in the cultivation arts, such as alchemy, artifact refinement, array making, and talisman making, are all at the 7th level. They would probably only be of great help to cultivators below the Dao integration realm. Now at the Dao fusion level, his existing skills undoubtedly became somewhat insignificant. However, advancing these skills to the 8th level with the cultivation arts pill would change everything. With the various cultivation arts complementing each other, his path of cultivation would surely surpass others at the same level. Gradually refocusing his mind, Jiang Chengxuan then put away the cultivation arts pills and turned his attention back to the outside world. By this time, the battle had completely subsided, and all the human cultivators were looking at Jiang Chengxuan, waiting for his instructions. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan finally make a move, they immediately showed hopeful expressions. Vice Sect Master, the demon army has been completely annihilated. What shall we do next? At this moment, the leading saint from the Haoran sect who came to support stepped forward and spoke. His expression was very excited, and his voice trembled with reverence. Initially skeptical about this newly appointed Vice Sect Master of the Haoran sect, especially since Jiang Chengxuan had not been seen upon their arrival, only sending messages to deploy the troops. If it weren't for Jiang Chengxuan's reputation within the Heoran sect and having a Mahayana Dailord as his shifu, he would not be able to command so many people for support. Only now did he realize how terrifying Jiang Chengxuan's strength truly was, shuddering at the thought of the consequences of neglecting his orders. If he had delayed this miraculous battle, he would have been a sinner to the Heoran sect and even to the human world. But Jiang Chengxuan was unaware of his thoughts, assuming he was just overly excited, so he said, "Now that it's over, let's clean up the battlefield. We're not aware of the other demonic forces, so we won't venture into battle recklessly." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan became quite cautious. He knew that the tens of thousands of abyssal demons he had exterminated represented several garrison areas' forces. It was equivalent to liberating 4 or 5 human garrison areas at once. This single battle could essentially cause the abyssal demons' arrangements to collapse. There was no need to take any more risks. Hearing his words, the initially ecstatic army of cultivators also calmed down. This was indeed the case. At this moment, they couldn't help but respect Jiang Chengxuan even more. After all, a good leader not only needs courage and vigor, but also knows when to retreat and advance. Staying put was clearly the best option at this time. So the following time was spent cleaning the battlefield. Besides seizing the resources and treasures plundered by the abyssal demons, their corpses also needed to be cleaned. The existence of abyssal demons is a contamination, even in death. The demonic rules left in the new world by the abyssal demons also had to be gradually cleared away. As for the 5 abyssal demon leaders, 3 were dealt with by Jiang Chengxuan, 1 by Shen Ruyan, and the remaining 1 by the high-level human cultivators. They manifested their own Tao to destroy the corpses of the demon leaders and sealed the demonic artifacts they used with their Tao. This battle, which eradicated tens of thousands of abyssal demons, was immensely fruitful. Cleaning up the remnants of tens of thousands of abyssal demons, and their spoils took the Heoran sect's army of cultivators a full day and night. Afterward, all resources reclaimed from the abyssal demons were handed over to Jiang Chengxuan for management. This marked the completion of post-battle tasks. Subsequently, led by members of the Heoran sect, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned to the Heoran sect's station. The shocking news of this victorious battle quickly spread throughout the New World. Some were astonished and disbelieving, suspecting the news to be a rumor spread by the Heoran sect for self-promotion. However, upon verification, the skeptics were forced to believe. In the Kainkun Hall, disciples of the 5 Elements Heavenly sect were shocked, filled with anger and jealousy. Again, it was the Heoran sect and Jiang Chengxuan seizing all the glory and benefits. As enemies of Jiang Chengxuan, they found no joy in the annihilation of tens of thousands of demonic forces. Jiang Chengxuan Heoran sect, is there really no stopping their rise? Meanwhile, inspired by Jiang Chengxuan and the Heoran sect's battle, countless sects and cultivators reignited their fighting spirit, eager to avenge the years of bloodshed against the abyssal demons. Under the intense battle, the flames of war to annihilate the abyssal demons ignited everywhere. The abyssal demons were continuously pursued by the humans. Time passed, and 5 years later, the last fortress of the demonic forces fell under the spiritual treasures of human cultivators. All the abyssal rifts in the New World were resealed and suppressed with arrays. This epic war, spanning decades and involving humans, abyssal demons, demon beasts, eldars, and deep-sea nomads, finally concluded. It was perhaps the most terrifying crisis and the cruelest war the celestial floodgate realm had faced in recent eras, with countless cultivators and powers perishing. Even some Tao mastery cultivators died, forcing Dailords to intervene and ancient ancestors to emerge. This war not only secured the New World for the celestial floodgate realm, but also subdued the surrounding realms, ensuring their subservience for millennia. With the resources from this war and the New World, the celestial floodgate realm's strength was unassailable in the millennia to come. Soon, news of the abyssal demons being driven out of the New World and the foreign races being repelled spread throughout the floodgate realm, bringing joy to everyone's hearts. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan at the Heoran sect station couldn't help but show joy on their faces. Although the direction of the war was decided long ago, the arrival of its conclusion still brought relief. Soon, a message came from the Pantheon sect, calling for a war summary meeting and requesting the presence of all sects. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan, accompanied by Shen Ruyan, quickly arrived at the Pantheon sect. There they encountered many familiar faces from various sects, including the Haoran sect, Thunderclap Valley, Facian Gate, the Kaiyan family, Divine Shadow Gate, Kaiyankun Hall, and the Five Elements Heavenly Sect. Due to Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying achievements in the war, many greeted him warmly upon their arrival, except for old foes from the Five Elements Heavenly Sect and Kaiyankun Hall, who looked on coldly. Unperturbed, Jiang Chengxuan paid them no mind, knowing these sects could no longer cause any significant trouble. The cultivators excitedly discussed the war until the arrival of the sect leaders and eventually, 3 Mahayana Dailords. This signaled everyone to stop their casual conversation. Jiang Chengxuan immediately noticed Qin Shenwu and respectfully greeted him. Qin Shenwu smiled back, clearly satisfied with Jiang Chengxuan's accomplishments in the war. However, what the cultivators hadn't anticipated was the arrival of 2 venerable elders following the 3 Mahayana Dailords. These elders who walked in later took the main seats, leaving everyone in shock. These 2 were unknown to them, yet their unfathomable presence was palpable. Let us introduce these 2 venerable elders, Ancestor Limitless, Ancestor Heavenlight. The Mahayana Dailords then clarified the identities of these 2 ancient powers from the human race, causing all present to pay their respects. Almighties from the ancient era were not people they could afford to offend. These 2 were probably invincible existences in the current celestial floodgate realm. Even the most arrogant 5 Elements Heavenly Sect was respectful to the 2 of them, even if they had someone in the immortal realm. It was because these 2 might also ascend soon. Enough formalities. We are not concerned with your sect disputes. We are here solely to distribute merits without any prejudice, the 2 ancestors stated after ensuring their authority was acknowledged. Their main purpose, besides making an appearance, was to distribute war spoils and merits to the various sects. The contributions and sacrifices of the sects and their cultivators were to be documented for this purpose. These merits would then be used to redistribute territories and resources in the New World, along with the war spoils, prioritizing those with greater contributions. Under the decree of these 2 ancestors, there was no room for dispute. Thus, the distribution of merits commenced, covering all sects that defended the 9 domains and the New World. Unsurprisingly, the Haoran sect emerged as the most meritorious, thanks not only to Jiang Chengxuan's numerous feats across the 9 domains, but also to the significant contributions of Qin Shenwu, a Mahayana Dailord. The 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Kaiyankun Hall, who were originally prepared to cause trouble at the meeting, were also silent at this moment. Facing the 2 venerable ancestors, their schemes were futile. Moreover, the Hall Master of the Kaiyankun Hall did not appear in the Battle of Mahayana on the excuse of an injury. Under such circumstances, the 2 ancestors were already very dissatisfied. How could they dare to protest again? They were simply courting death if they did so. After 2 days, the post-war conference concluded, with Jiang Chengxuan receiving the highest commendations from the 2 ancestors. Their closeness and expectations towards Jiang Chengxuan made many ponder the rising influence of the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley. After imparting some advice to Jiang Chengxuan, the 2 venerable human ancestors departed from the Pantheon sect to continue their mission. With arrangements made by the ancestors, each sect received a satisfactory share of the rewards, leading to their respective departures. Thus, the Grand War officially came to an end. Leaving the Pantheon sect, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan followed Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping back to their sect. Along the way, Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping couldn't stop praising Jiang Chengxuan for his performance. In this grand conflict spanning 5 realms, the Haoran sect had indeed made a name for itself, showcasing its strength prominently. Jiang Chengxuan had achieved significant victories against foreign races and had defended the 9 domains before annihilating countless abyssal demons in the New World. Meanwhile, Qin Shenwu, having recently ascended to the Mahayana realm, had made his mark by emerging victorious in a battle against an abyssal Dailord. The Haoran sect had indeed reaped a bountiful harvest in the division of spoils from this war. The allocation of territories in the New World and the resources confiscated from other realms were all exchanged by the Haoran sect using their accumulated merits. It's not hard to imagine the extravagant conditions the disciples of the Haoran sect will enjoy for centuries to come, and how many more talents will emerge with such resources at their disposal. From this day forward, in the eyes of cultivators across the celestial floodgate realm, the Haoran sect was undeniably on par with the traditional overlord sects. This battle had brought significant gains to everyone involved. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping had their affairs to attend to. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan thus bid them a temporary farewell to return to their respective sects for secluded cultivation. Watching Shen Ruyan's figure disappear into the distance, Jiang Chengxuan retracted his gaze and returned to his cave abode in a flash of light. Arriving back at his familiar mountain peak, he was greeted by the spirit pets he had been raising. After petting them and feeding them some spiritual fruits, Jiang Chengxuan calmly entered his cave abode. He activated the seclusion restrictions of his cave abode, plunging the surrounding space into complete silence. Illuminated by the soft light of night pearls, Jiang Chengxuan meticulously reviewed his gains, especially cherishing the numerous rewards from the system. The system never disappointed him, always being generous with its gifts. Whether it was the deduction bead or the cultivation arts pill, Jiang Chengxuan now laid them out around him, intending to use these treasures for his immediate advancement. The heavenly calculation technique had always been his life-saving skill, protecting him from being calculated by even Daelords. Moreover, the intuition of the heavens derived from the heavenly calculation technique was an unmatched skill, proving crucial in battles and schemes alike. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan began to channel his dharmic power, causing the deduction bead to rise and fall into his hand. He then proceeded to use the bead once again on the heavenly calculation technique. Buzz! A strange vibration suddenly swept through the area. In Jiang Chengxuan's mind, the content of the heavenly calculation technique immediately began to expand again. It had reached the peak of the 5th level and continued to advance. The speed of advancement only paused for a moment before it surged forward violently. Just like that, Jiang Chengxuan instantly broke through the bottleneck of the heavenly calculation technique and reached the 6th level. Many things and issues that he had previously overlooked or even been unable to grasp became clear after reaching the 6th level. For instance, he could only sense danger in the great battles outside the realm that the Mahayana Daelords participated in before, but now he could vaguely replicate the situation of those battles in a mysterious way. Also, he suddenly understood why there were problems with the demonic abyss. After advancing to the 6th level of the heavenly calculation technique, Jiang Chengxuan could perceive his karma with Mahayana Daelords. Originally, Daelords were cultivators who had transcended this world and were difficult to spy on. Now, as long as any Daelord had significant karma with Jiang Chengxuan, he could sense it. Furthermore, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to see the rules of karma, the subtle connections between all things in this world. Everything in this world is connected by karma. The difference is only direct or indirect. As Jiang Chengxuan pondered profoundly, a cursed scripture suddenly appeared in his mind out of nowhere. Karma curse, Jiang Chengxuan muttered unconsciously. This cursed scripture gradually integrated with his consciousness and eventually inscribed itself into his mind. It turned out to be a divine power naturally obtained after breaking through in the heavenly calculation technique, karma curse. It utilizes the enhancement of karma to attach the rule of death to the cursed individual. The more complete the information and karma Jiang Chengxuan obtains about the target, the stronger the power of the karma curse. For instance, if he could obtain the target's blood, hair, etc., the power of the karma curse from afar would be far stronger than a direct curse. If he spends a great deal of time preparing and casting the curse in advance, the karma curse becomes even more terrifying. It could directly curse and kill an entity at the level of fusion Dao, causing them to die unseen. Even for Dao mastery cultivators, this cursed divine power could also pose a huge threat. The most important aspect is that, since Jiang Chengxuan possesses the heavenly calculation technique, the target cannot use reverse karma to trace him back. Karma curse is a risk-free attack method for him, with a relatively high success rate. This undoubtedly gave Jiang Chengxuan a great surprise. After learning this karma curse, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but explore it. In the end, he sighed at the wonders of this divine power. With this ability to kill enemies from afar, he no longer had to fear offending anyone. His enemies would have nowhere to escape in the face of this curse, divine power. Furthermore, if anyone provoked him, he could simply hide and secretly kill the enemy and their allies. This undoubtedly brought his strength to another level. Yang Chengxuan sighed and slowly calmed down. Then he took out 3 boxes from his side, which contained the cultivation arts pills. He opened the box seal with a secret technique, but only took out 2 of the cultivation arts pills. They were intended to be used on talisman making and spiritual plant cultivation. As for the last one, Jiang Chengxuan did not plan to use it. The reason he did not choose array making, alchemy, or artifact refinement, which are more practical skills, was that his understanding in these areas had already reached a bottleneck, and he also had the confidence to break through. Choosing to enter seclusion in his cave, abode immediately after returning to the Haoran sect, was precisely for this reason. Without any hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan immediately swallowed the 2 cultivation arts pills. Instantly, an extremely mysterious energy began to spread throughout his body, reaching even to his very spirit. Jiang Chengxuan closed his eyes and entered a state of serene focus, greedily absorbing the strange energy of the pills. In a flash, various pieces of knowledge and memories about spirit plant cultivation and talisman making emerged, like points of light blossoming in his sea of consciousness. These were not just simple fragments of knowledge. Once they integrated into Jiang Chengxuan's body, they felt like experiences he had personally lived through. As information about various spirit plants, their unique characteristics, and the Tao of nature and humanity were absorbed by Jiang Chengxuan, his realm in spirit plant cultivation gradually reached perfection, like overflowing water continuously breaking through barriers. Finally, after a moment, the realm's gate was burst open, and Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt a refreshing sensation as if ascending to the heavens. Immediately following this, the effect of the cultivation arts pills continued to unfold. Various mysterious methods of creating talismans and insights into the art of talisman making surged forth like a fountain, relentlessly assaulting the barriers of Jiang Chengxuan's realm until they were perfectly shattered. Day and night passed, and Jiang Chengxuan swiftly mastered many 8th-level talisman techniques, signifying that his skill in talisman making had finally broken through to the 8th level. Breaking through 2 cultivation arts in succession brought Jiang Chengxuan an indescribable sense of exhilaration. Such an improvement was starkly evident and satisfying, as nothing brings more joy than enhancing one's own strength. With a spirited heart, Jiang Chengxuan began to explore these 2 advanced cultivation 100 arts. He took out some resources and started cultivating high-grade spirit plants with potent medicinal properties directly in his cave abode. Then he took out several talismans and began drawing them in the air with a special technique. The runes were incredibly complex, but with his understanding of 8th-level talisman crafting, Jiang Chengxuan meticulously completed them without any mistakes. After examining his work with satisfaction, Jiang Chengxuan collected the talisman materials and sat back down, regaining his focus. Soon, he re-entered a state of tranquil concentration, preparing his body and soul for peak condition. Next, he aimed to break through in arrays, alchemy, and artifact refinement. Despite his confidence in these breakthroughs, he no longer had the shortcut offered by cultivation arts pills and had to polish his skills through persistent effort. Such a tedious process could easily lead to deviation if not careful. Moreover, attempting to break through in 3 cultivation arts simultaneously was no small feat. Only bolstered by the confidence from his recent advancements did he dare to try. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan carefully adjusted himself to the perfect state, not daring to be negligent. Finding the right moment, he immediately began working with the prepared materials to make his breakthrough, starting with alchemy. He took out his alchemy furnace and with a thought manifested the Tao of fire, along with various types of fires blooming with an eerie beauty. These fires had become incredibly solid and mysterious after being nourished throughout the war. With a wave of his hand, he introduced the fires into the furnace, igniting a fierce blaze. Then, focusing his power on the furnace, he meticulously observed every change, timing the addition of each alchemy ingredient perfectly. The flames roared, melting and extracting the essence of the medicinal ingredients. Without any hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan devoted himself entirely to the process of pill concoction, reaching a state of detachment, as if he had merged with the heavens and earth. The path of alchemy allows no shortcuts, only through diligent effort. Time mercilessly passed amidst the burning of the alchemy furnace. Jiang Chengxuan remained motionless, like a statue, only moving robotically to begin the alchemy process once the pill concoction was complete. Thus, 30 years flashed by in the blink of an eye. During these days and nights, Jiang Chengxuan concocted countless batches of pills, melting millions of medicinal herbs and materials. His understanding of alchemy had thoroughly reached the 8th level, only missing that final breakthrough. Finally, at a certain moment, that spark of enlightenment suddenly appeared, and everything fell into place. Like a silver vase breaking and spilling its contents, the bottleneck of 8th level alchemy was forcefully broken through by Jiang Chengxuan. At this moment, inside the alchemy furnace, the aura of chaos persisted endlessly. This 8th level pill was finally concocted to completion by Jiang Chengxuan after 10 years of effort. An 8th level alchemist is an exceedingly rare existence in the vast celestial floodgate realm, revered as one above tens of thousands, and beneath only Mahāyāna Dailords. After all, even those at the Tao Fusion cannot do without their pills, and the best pills can even assist in reaching Mahāyāna. An incredibly mysterious aura spread as the alchemy furnace was opened, filling the entire cave dwelling with the fragrance of medicine. Even the restrictions set up for seclusion, influenced by the aura of the pill, seemed to become more solid. This was a chaos pill, containing a trace of the Tao of chaos, capable of obscuring the heavens' secrets and granting the user control over the power of chaos for a period. It is extremely rare. Looking at this pill and feeling the aura of an 8th level alchemist, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but smile. Finally, through his own efforts, he achieved a breakthrough to the 8th level in alchemy. Although the process was arduous, it was all worth it in the end. From now on, facing adversaries, he had another significant bargaining chip, adding another layer of security to his path of cultivation. Simultaneously, a notification from the system echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving a breakthrough to the 8th level in alchemy. Reward received, advancement pill. Consuming this pill can directly elevate your current realm to its peak. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan's heart surged with excitement. Advancement pill. This could directly advance his realm to the peak of the Tao Fusion. Considering it had only been a few decades since his breakthrough to the Tao Fusion, advancing directly to its peak was astonishing. For cultivators, a few decades is but a moment. For many who break through to the Tao Fusion, a few decades might not even suffice for stabilizing their realm and mastering the full capabilities of the Tao Fusion. Yet, under such circumstances, Jiang Chengxuan was about to reach the peak of the Tao Fusion. This was an incredible achievement. Such a temptation even made Jiang Chengxuan's heart race. With this advancement pill, he could now prepare for the next breakthrough to the realm of Tao mastery. Although the peak of the Tao Fusion realm was within reach, Jiang Chengxuan didn't rush. After some thought, he decided to continue with his original plan, aiming to first achieve breakthroughs in the art of array and artifact refinement before advancing to the peak of the Tao Fusion realm. Moreover, given the system rewards for alchemy breakthroughs, Jiang Chengxuan was even more curious about what awaited him next. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan carefully stored the advancement pill and began adjusting his state again. Sitting on a soft cushion, he gathered his spirit with practiced ease, entering a tranquil state. He breathed slowly until he had complete control over every strand of his dharmic power. Next, Jiang Chengxuan manifested the Tao of fire, with different fires floating around him. Additionally, he took out numerous spirit artifacts and treasures from his storage space. These were enemy treasures he had collected from battlefields, varying in styles and forms, representing the diverse cultures of demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, eldars, and abyssal demons. Each race and world used different materials and methods for artifact refinement. For an artifact refiner, these spirit tools are like books and secrets, offering enlightenment and improvement through disassembly and smelting. Jiang Chengxuan did precisely that, breaking down and studying every spirit tool and treasure, high grade or low, without omission. Each piece contributed to his experience in breaking through the barriers of artifact refinement, also unveiling many mysteries of the craft. Gradually, Jiang Chengxuan became wholly immersed in the world of artifact refinement, forgetting all else. Years flew by, 5, 10, 20, 30. In the blink of an eye, 40 years passed. Without any surprises, Jiang Chengxuan achieved a breakthrough to the 8th level in artifact refinement. This breakthrough didn't manifest in a visually spectacular manner, but Jiang Chengxuan knew his understanding of dharmic treasures had reached a profound level. Now, he could almost instantly discern the functions of an enemy's spiritual treasure at a glance. Moreover, Jiang Chengxuan had also absorbed all the artifact refinement techniques in the other realms. In the future, he might be able to create something with a combined effect. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving a breakthrough to the 8th level in artifact refinement. As the system's voice timely echoed in his mind, Jiang Chengxuan smiled, awaiting this moment. Reward received. Upgrading stone, capable of temporarily elevating a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure to the level of an arcane celestial treasure. The system's voice followed. This time, Jiang Chengxuan was mildly pleased and stored the reward. This reward from the system was essentially an ace up his sleeve, a trump card for critical moments. Although it was not needed now, it could be a lifesaver in life-and-death situations. After taking a breather, Jiang Chengxuan moved around his cave, tending to the spirit plants he had planted. Despite 40 years of neglect under his care, they were still thriving. Once he had taken care of the plants, he sat down again, ready for the next phase of breakthroughs without any hesitation. With renewed vigor, he embarked on achieving further breakthroughs. At this moment, despite some fatigue, Jiang Chengxuan dispelled it and continued to take out objects to initiate his breakthrough. This time, he brought out enemy array discs seized during the war, along with various insights from his experience in laying out arrays. The art of arrays, being the skill he used most frequently among all the cultivation arts, was where Jiang Chengxuan felt most confident and assured of breakthroughs. With a gesture, several array discs flew out, and bolstered by his primordial spirit, he began to unravel the mysteries of these arrays. Each of these arrays was extremely powerful, including 8th-level grand arrays such as the Blood Sea Heaven Slaughtering Array used by Demon Saint Sky Splitter during their attempt to kill him, which was among them. Having personally experienced the power of these grand arrays, Jiang Chengxuan naturally had a deeper understanding of them. Soon, he deciphered the mysteries of various arrays one by one. Jiang Chengxuan thus immersed himself in the profundity of arrays, losing track of time once more. The spirit plants he had planted grew and sprouted, becoming more lush and vibrant. Time flew by until the 100th year of his seclusion finally arrived. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly opened his eyes, emitting brilliant flashes of light. In his eyes, countless mysteries of arrays overlapped and rotated in a mysterious manner, as if thousands of arrays had merged into one. These grand arrays became simpler as they operated, eventually dissolving into nothingness. At that moment, an indescribable aura radiated from Jiang Chengxuan, emanating a profound and mysterious presence. He had finally achieved a breakthrough to the 8th level in the art of arrays. After alchemy, artifact refinement, and now array arts, all three major cultivation arts had been mastered, spanning 100 years. Even for someone as mentally resilient as Jiang Chengxuan, this moment was exhilarating, prompting laughter from the depth of his heart. A century of seclusion had passed, but he felt no fatigue, only joy. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving a breakthrough to the 8th level in arrays. Reward, Ancient Array Spirit. With the system's announcement, the final reward was revealed. And this time, the reward was an array spirit. Jiang Chengxuan was astounded, then laughed heartily, utterly delighted. Array spirits, entities only mentioned in records, were said to significantly enhance any array's power and could perfectly control any arrays. The birth of an array spirit depended entirely on fate and probability, with no known conditions for its creation. Such a treasure could only be bestowed by the heavens. Yet with the system's aid, Jiang Chengxuan had serendipitously obtained such a treasure, fueling his joy. Looking down, he saw the array spirit, resembling an ethereal blue fish without a solid body, swimming through the void. Even with Jiang Chengxuan's perception, he could only see a few blurry light spots. One could only see it with the naked eye. It was obvious how magical it was. Pleased with his discovery, he gently extended his palms, and the array spirit, showing its intelligence, leapt into his hands. Jiang Chengxuan smiled, playfully interacting with it. The array spirit, far from being annoyed, became even more lively, swimming energetically within his palms, showing closeness and affection. This, too, must be one of the system's miraculous abilities. After playing with the array spirit for a while, Jiang Chengxuan finally put it away. While familiarizing himself with the array spirit, he vaguely guessed its origins. The array spirit exuded a very subtle but powerful aura, leading Jiang Chengxuan to speculate that this rare divine gift might have originated from the legendary 10th-level array. Although he couldn't pinpoint the exact connection, he was certain there was a cause and effect relationship, which might explain the extreme rarity of array spirits. 10th-level arrays might not exist in the celestial floodgate realm, and could potentially annihilate even a Mahayana Dailord if they ventured into one. Setting up such an array would be as difficult as slaying a Dailord, if not more so. However, Jiang Chengxuan didn't intend to delve deeper into this matter. Having achieved breakthroughs in the three major cultivation arts of alchemy, artifact refinement, and array making, he was in high spirits and began to organize his gains from this period of seclusion. First and foremost was his advancement in the heavenly calculation technique to the 6th level. This technique greatly aided him, and with the breakthrough, it became an even more significant trump card. Additionally, the 6th level granted him the terrifying Karma Curse divine power, providing him with potential even against Mahayana Dailords. Next were his advancements in the cultivation arts of spirit plant cultivation and talisman making, further safeguarding his cultivation journey. The breakthroughs in alchemy, artifact refinement, and arrays were critical, directly boosting his personal strength. These three cultivation arts all had a key effect. They could directly increase his strength. They were like troikas. From now on, they would be controlled by Jiang Chengxuan, and his cultivation speed would definitely increase qualitatively. Pills could not only increase one's strength, but also one's combat ability. It was the same for artifact refinement. Array making was a skill that could be used to attack, retreat, and defend. Ordinary cultivators who could master one of them were qualified enough to establish a sect and become a sect master. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had mastered 3 and was very proficient in them. This was very terrifying. If the outside world were to find out, his reputation would spread far and wide in no time, and his enemies would have even more headaches. After all, not only could these skills be used on him, but they were also urgently needed by his sect. No one would be willing to offend such an existence for no reason. Instead, as soon as they met, they would think of ways to get to know him. Additionally, the system rewards for these breakthroughs brought him unexpected joy. An advancement pill could directly elevate him to the peak of the Tao fusion realm, saving him a millennium of cultivation. An upgrading stone could temporarily elevate a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure to the level of an arcane celestial treasure, acting as a terrifying trump card similar to the 9th-level talisman prepared by his master, Qin Shenwu, for battling Dailord. Such treasures essentially gave Jiang Chengxuan an additional life, especially the array spirit, a rare and highly coveted item. Jiang Chengxuan had no concerns about the array spirit's utility. Arrays were the foundation of the world of cultivation. No force could leave something like arrays. Be it fighting, defense, or killing, they were all indispensable. Possessing the array spirit as a trump card meant certain death for some of Jiang Chengxuan's enemies. This period of seclusion brought significant gains, perhaps the most terrifying to date, enhancing his strength, trump cards, and skills across the board. From now on, the celestial floodgate realm was his oyster. Even facing Mahayana Dailords seemed possible. Even the Mahayana Dailords, who were formidable before his seclusion, now seemed within his reach for a confrontation. This level of advancement would take others thousands of years of arduous cultivation. Satisfied with the outcome, Jiang Chengxuan was not yet ready to rest. Taking out the advancement pill awarded by the system, Jiang Chengxuan took a moment to gather his breath. Without any hesitation, he swallowed the pill. In an instant, terrifying power burst from within his body, coursing through his limbs and bones. This was an extremely pure primordial spirit qi, vast as the ocean. It seemed to have been refined by some top-level secret technique, presenting no harm or absorption barrier. This energy flowed throughout Jiang Chengxuan's body, and every part of him could absorb it. Without any need for concern, all Jiang Chengxuan had to do was to absorb it fully to achieve the peak sooner. In his cave abode, his aura steadily climbed as if a seal had been undone, suggesting his strength had long surpassed that of Tao fusion. Not just in terms of power, but the Tao within his body was also reaching perfection. Under the mysterious effect of the advancement pill, his body seemed to transform into a body of Tao, naturally merging deeply with the Tao of the 5 elements. If an outsider were to witness this, they would be utterly astounded. For a long time, it has always been cultivators seeking the Tao, but never has the Tao sought a cultivator. But at this moment, that was exactly the case. The Tao of the five elements and the Tao of samsara both spontaneously manifested, exuding an affinity and merging with Jiang Chengxuan as if he were a reincarnated immortal, which was incredibly terrifying. Under the effect of the advancement pill, Jiang Chengxuan felt comfortable. Suddenly, at a certain moment, he let out a loud shout, and his aura instantly surged to its peak, overflowing with dominance. The excess pure energy was released into his cave abode, greedily absorbed by the spiritual land. Yet at this moment, his manifested aura had unmistakably reached the peak of Tao fusion. "Is this the advancement pill? Truly impressive," Jiang Chengxuan murmured, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Breaking through to the Tao fusion realm had only taken him a little over 100 years, and now he had already reached the peak. This was nothing short of miraculous, unprecedented even among the legendary immortals. 100 years of seclusion, directly achieving the peak, was already beyond belief, sufficient to shock the entire celestial floodgate realm. Not to mention, he had many other breakthroughs and gains. The view from the pinnacle of the celestial floodgate realm was now within Jiang Chengxuan's reach, ready for him to survey. Feeling the manifold increase in his dharmic power, Jiang Chengxuan's heart was filled with immense satisfaction. The state of the peak of Tao fusion wasn't just about the enhancement of dharmic power. At this point, the power of Tao within him was also nearing perfection. Reaching the peak of a realm is significantly different, almost a minor threshold in itself. Cultivators entering the peak of the Tao fusion can already be considered as quasi-Tao mastery without any issue. They often have touched upon a higher realm in some aspects, just missing that final step to breakthrough. A breakthrough doesn't necessarily need to reach the state of peak. Some independent cultivators lacking resources or those extremely confident in themselves choose to attempt a breakthrough before reaching the peak, to save resources and shorten the time required. However, this also reduces the probability of a successful breakthrough, akin to a gamble. If one reaches the state of peak, there's at least a 20% higher chance of a successful breakthrough compared to attempting it earlier. Jiang Chengxuan pondered in his mind whether to continue his seclusion. Now that he had reached the peak, why not make a concerted effort to break through to the Tao mastery? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Moreover, the War of the Five Realms before his seclusion provided him with many insights. All these would aid significantly in his breakthrough to the Tao mastery, making this a perfect opportunity. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan resolved to continue his seclusion, aiming for a breakthrough to the Tao mastery. He reached out and extracted the enlightenment pill awarded by the system. This pill was also the greatest source of confidence for him to finally break through. Consuming the enlightenment pill would add about a 30% chance to his breakthrough, almost ensuring success. However, this process would likely consume another 100 years of his life. Continuing seclusion for 200 years straight, even for a cultivator, is not a small number. Thinking this, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly wasn't so eager anymore. Shen Ruyan had also gone back to Thunderclap Valley for seclusion, and by now she should have emerged too. Considering his partner and possible affairs at the sect, since the chance for breakthrough always exists, he could afford to delay it. Moreover, before attempting a breakthrough, he could make some preparations to increase his chances, such as exchanging for cultivation resources at the sect that help consolidate primordial spirit and stabilize the mind. Given his performance in the war, exchanging for those resources from the sect would be easy. The contribution points he possessed were astonishingly high, possibly even surpassing those of Zhu Ping, the sect master of Heoran's sect. With his steps echoing towards the exit of his cave abode, the restrictions that had been in place for 100 years were finally lifted. The intense sunlight poured in, and the scent of flowers and birdsong instantly lifted Jiang Chengxuan's spirits. The path of cultivation is drearily monotonous, and without the scenery along the way, it would be unbearably tormenting. He breathed freely the primordial spirit chi of the outside world. The spirit pets that were disturbed by the noise of the restrictions peeked out curiously. The spirit deer closest to him affectionately approached first. Jiang Chengxuan petted the deer's antlers and remarked, "It's been 100 years and you've made quite some progress too." The spirit deer made affectionate noises in response. As time passed, these pets around his cave abode had all grown stronger. "Go ahead, I have some matters to attend to outside," Jiang Chengxuan said after playing with the spirit pets for a while. He took out a large amount of pills from his storage treasure and scattered them around. These pills, made during his breakthrough to the 8th level of alchemy, were somewhat beneficial for cultivation but weren't particularly precious, at least not to Xianxia. He even took out a 7th level spirit pill, specifically for the spirit deer to consume. Upon consuming the spirit pill, the spirit deer's body immediately started to radiate light, and its aura climbed, making it incredibly joyful. However, when it looked towards Xianxia, it found he had already vanished. In the blink of an eye, Xianxia had arrived at the entrance to the Haoran sect's treasure vault, guarded by 2 stone statues of mythical beasts. These 2 mythical beast statues were puppets, something Xianxia could tell at a glance. Their strength was roughly around the Tao fusion, mainly serving as a warning to those who approached without permission. The sect's treasure vault was also under the watchful eyes of the sect's elders. As Xianxia moved forward, bypassing the 2 giant mythical beast puppets, indeed, 2 figures emerged from the shadows to block his path. 2 respected elders of the sect, here is the sect token, please allow me to pass. Xianxia wasn't surprised by their appearance and promptly presented his identity token. The 2 elders guarding the treasure vault were slightly astonished upon seeing the token. Vice-sect master, Xianxia. One elder scrutinized Xianxia carefully and asked slowly, "It is indeed I." With Zhu Ping's unique mark on the token, the 2 elders recognized his identity. They were silent and stared at Xianxia seriously, as if they wanted to see through him. However, Xianxia just stood there calmly and did not move at all. Indeed, a talent of our Haoran sect. Go ahead and select whatever resources you need. After you come out, we will calculate the contribution points required. The 2 elders suddenly smiled, returned the token to Xianxia and said. Then they took out a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure capable of breaking the treasure vault's seal, jointly manifested their Tao, and opened the massive doors of the treasure vault. Their lineage had taken guarding the sect's treasure vault as their lifelong goal. Their cultivated Tao also related to the guarding of highly valued locations within the sect. Moreover, they seldom left the sect and were not well informed about external affairs. But 100 years ago, when a large amount of resources was sent back to the sect, claiming to be war spoils from the ended conflict, they casually inquired and learned of Xianxia's fame and deeds. Seeing him today, they found he indeed lived up to his reputation. His strength and potential were immeasurably profound. Thanks a lot. Xianxia didn't say much, just nodded in appreciation and stepped through the grand doors of the sect's treasure vault. As space fluctuated, he felt as if he had passed through a domain-like restriction, entering a space resembling a new world. Inside, various cultivation resources were displayed in abundance, breathtaking to behold, with no end in sight. It was like an island in a different space built of treasures, with divine medicines, spiritual treasures, and precious items stored in numerous glass treasure boxes. Boxes filled with resources piled up like mountains, and deeper within, Xianxia could faintly sense the existence of a second door. The second door opens for elders and higher-ups of the sect, requiring contribution points to enter. Would you like to open it? Before Xianxia could ask, the voice of the guarding elder came through the void. Of course, Xianxia replied. He was not short on contribution points now, and merely the resources on the first level were insufficient to meet his needs for breaking through to the Tao mastery. As he spoke, Xianxia felt a large array within the entire treasure vault begin to operate. Layers of restrictions were unlocked, revealing a portal at the far end, like parting clouds. However, Xianxia didn't rush over. Instead, he selected the resources he needed from the first level according to his needs. Some time later, he continued forward at a leisurely pace and stepped into the door of the second level. Buzz. Crossing another boundary, Xianxia entered a new section of the treasure vault. Here, compared to the lower level, the elemental spirit energy was significantly denser, making it a veritable blessed land. Yet it was merely used for storage, showcasing the Haoran sect's immense wealth. The treasures on this level were about 80% less than on the first layer. However, everything here was only available to elders and above. These were treasures accumulated by the Haoran sect over the years, with even the least valuable of them useful for Tao integration cultivators. In fact, in the center of the pile of treasures, Jiang Chengxuan even saw the existence of immortal medicine, although it was only an incomplete part. Nonetheless, it was still astonishing. From Tao integration saints to Mahayana Dailords, anyone could find something valuable here, making a visit worthwhile. Without further ado, Jiang Chengxuan began his meticulous selection process. In this level, he saw many familiar items, such as high-grade demonic pills, treasures from the deep-sea nomads, and secret medicines from the Eldars. These were resources distributed to the Haoran sect after the war, during the merit distribution meeting. Before the war, such items were rare in the treasure vault, as they were unique to foreign worlds. Quickly, half a day passed in a flash. It was not until dusk that Jiang Chengxuan emerged from the grand doors of the treasure vault. The figures of the two guarding elders also promptly appeared outside. Jiang Chengxuan, satisfied, handed the storage artifact used to store treasures to the elders to deduct the corresponding contribution points. The two elders counted seriously and could not help but click their tongues. These resources total 88 million contribution points. Okay. Once the elders finished tallying, Jiang Chengxuan handed over his sect token without hesitation. The elders then deducted the contribution points from the token and returned the storage artifact to him. By then, his visit to the treasure vault had officially ended. The expenditure of contribution points did not surprise Jiang Chengxuan, even though it might be an astronomical sum others could not accumulate in a lifetime. When selecting these resources, Jiang Chengxuan chose only the best quality, sparing no expense. Moreover, there were actually many exchanged resources that were not prepared for the breakthrough of the Tao mastery. As his cultivation arts had improved greatly, Jiang Chengxuan's need for resources also undoubtedly increased. This time, his exchange was predominantly for alchemical and artifact crafting refining, a preparation for unforeseen needs. After all, his next emergence from seclusion would not be until a century later. Who could predict the circumstances then? It was not a bad thing to prepare more. Moreover, he was carrying a huge sum of money now. With a heart light and spirits high, Jiang Chengxuan left the treasure vault of the Haoran sect, pausing momentarily before deciding to visit his shifu, Qin Shenwu. After that war, the two of them had not seen each other for more than a century. He circulated his dharmic power and transformed into a five-colored streak of light that flew towards the Shenwu peak where Qin Shenwu was. Along the way, many people were surprised to see this terrifying aura. Then, they realized that Vice Sect Master Jiang Chengxuan had come out of seclusion. Unexpectedly, his strength had already reached this realm, making the others blush with shame. It had to be known that Jiang Chengxuan had not been in the Haoran sect for long. He could be said to be the youngest elder. But now, his strength was already close to Sect Master Zhu Ping's level, marking him as one of the few dominant figures in the Haoran sect. His might was unmatched in the Floodgate realm, a monstrous talent capable of overpowering all other sects. Unaware of the awe he inspired, Jiang Chengxuan soon arrived at the Grand Hall of Xuanwu Peak, where the familiar figure of Qin Shenwu awaited, seemingly expecting his arrival. Approaching the towering figure, Jiang Chengxuan bowed respectfully. "Shifu, my seclusion has ended, and I've come to see you." Qin Shenwu turned, his face breaking into a warm smile upon seeing his most proud disciple. "Ha, Chengxuan, your gains from a century of seclusion seem quite substantial. Good, very good." In front of Jiang Chengxuan, Qin Shenwu cast aside the demeanor of a grand Dailord, praising him warmly. "Indeed, Shifu, I've made some gains," Jiang Chengxuan replied, not overly modest, his smile genuine. Their conversation then turned to the years past, discussing the dynamics of the Floodgate realm. Qin Shenwu, without reservations, shared everything, painting a clear picture of the recent events. The realms of Tianyao, Shanghai, and Tianling, after their defeat, had been harassed by the Floodgate realm until they were forced to seal their realm barrier. It was equivalent to cutting off the possibility of ascension to immortality to prevent the revenge by the celestial Floodgate realm. The abyssal realm, too, had ceased its encroachment on the New World, letting the passageway from the demonic abyss to the New World be sealed with heavy restrictions. On the front of the New World, the Haoran sect had developed a significant area, with Leng Yuehua managing the resources. This continuous influx elevated the living standards of the sect's disciple. Under such influences, the number of cultivators joining the Haoran sect had been increasing year by year. With the Haoran sect's wealth and power, they welcomed all who met their criteria, their influence growing to a point where calling them an overlord sect was no overstatement. After a day and night of casual talk, Jiang Chengxuan revealed his true purpose. Shifu, my emergence from seclusion was to exchange for resources needed for breakthroughs. I've decided to go into consecutive seclusion to break through the Tao mastery. Without holding back, Jiang Chengxuan shared his plans for breakthrough, laying bare his ambitions to his Shifu, Qin Shenwu. Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, even Qin Shenwu, a figure renowned for his unwavering resolve, couldn't help but sharply focus his gaze. It was astonishing, after all, that Jiang Chengxuan, who had not long ago entered the realm of Tao fusion, was now on the cusp of breaking through to Tao mastery. Qin Shenwu knew his disciple's character better than anyone. Chengxuan must possess a certain confidence in his breakthrough, and the chances of success were likely not slim. This realization surprised him, for while his disciple had always been remarkable, this development was particularly startling. After a brief moment of astonishment, Qin Shenwu spoke again. If you are confident, why not? The Haoran sect is flourishing more with each passing day, so you need not worry about sect affairs. He offered Jiang Chengxuan reassurance, advising him not to be distracted by the responsibilities towards the sect. However, could you allow me to assess your current state, just to be sure? Qin Shenwu continued, feeling a sense of duty towards his disciple. The relationship between a Shifu and a disciple in the path of cultivation often transcends that of mere guides and protectors. It's a bond stronger and more intimate than that of blood. Okay. Jiang Chengxuan responded without hesitation, readily agreeing to the request. Perhaps his visit wasn't initially for this purpose, and he was quite confident in his breakthrough, but the opportunity to have his progress checked by a Mahayana Dailord, his own Shifu, was not something to refuse. The two rose from their seats in the grand hall and stepped outside, making their way to the summit outside the Qianwu Peak. In just a few steps, Jiang Chengxuan had adjusted his breathing, reaching an optimal state. At the cliff outside the peak, amidst swirling clouds and a faint glow of dawn, Jiang Chengxuan nodded slightly to Qin Shenwu and then invoked his full power, his aura climbing terrifyingly. Soon after, his mastery over the Tao fusion was soon apparent, as the rules of the five elements unfolded, with the rule of samsara manifesting alongside them. The world of the five elements cycle materialized atop the Qianwu Peak, its rules intertwining perfectly with Jiang Chengxuan, a clear sign of complete Tao fusion, nearly mastering the Tao of the five elements and samsara. This scene took Qin Shenwu aback. He had thought Jiang Chengxuan's decision to break through was based on obtaining some treasure or sudden enlightenment, but he hadn't expected his disciple to have already reached the peak of Tao fusion. In merely a century, to step into the realm of Tao fusion required not just extraordinary talent, but also significant opportunities. All right, Chengxuan, you are even more remarkable than I had imagined. It seems you are set on this path of seclusion for breakthrough, Qin Shenwu said with a broad smile, recognizing that his disciple's future achievements would be formidable. The Haoran sect's second Mahayana Dailord was almost a certainty. Jiang Chengxuan's natural talent was undeniable, and coupled with the faith that cultivators believe in, he was indeed a favored son of the heavens. Even he himself found it hard to compare. However, Qin Shenwu would naturally not pry into his disciple's secrets. In the world of cultivation, such knowledge could spell disaster for the inquisitive. Respecting each other's silence is a form of mutual respect. Shifu, you flatter me. It is all thanks to your excellent guidance and constant nurturing that I have achieved so much so quickly, Jiang Chengxuan said modestly, in turn praising Qin Shenwu, who couldn't help but chuckle at the gesture. Enough of that, Qin Shenwu laughed. I believe you already have a great chance of breaking through, but as your Shifu, I still have duties to fulfill. As Qin Shenwu's words fell, he retrieved a gray treasure box from his storage treasure. Inside the box lay a pitch-black lotus, radiating an enigmatic aura as if it were a relic from beyond the heavens. Handing the treasure box to Jiang Chengxuan, Qin Shenwu slowly explained. This is a Taoist black lotus that grew in the realms beyond ours. It might aid in your breakthrough to Tao mastery. Take it and use it well. Upon seeing the Taoist black lotus within the box, Jiang Chengxuan was momentarily taken aback. Even though Qin Shenwu spoke casually, Chengxuan was well aware of the rarity of such a treasure. Clearly, it was an object from beyond their realm, marked by distinct extraterrestrial energy. Its origin in the outer realm signified one thing: Only a Mahayana Dailord could obtain such treasures. For anyone other than a Mahayana Dailord, venturing into the outer realms was tantamount to seeking death. Such treasures that caught the eye of a Mahayana Dailord were undoubtedly valuable, not only for their rarity but also for their efficacy. The fact that it could assist in breaking through to Tao mastery made it as precious as the enlightenment pills bestowed by the system. Jiang Chengxuan looked at his shifu, Qin Shenwu, and without saying much accepted the treasure box. Between them, words were unnecessary. Their deep shifu-disciple relationship said it all. "All right, there are others you probably wish to see. You should go now," Qin Shenwu said, concluding their meeting without further ado. Waving his hand, he then returned to the grand hall alone. Jiang Chengxuan felt a warmth in his heart. On the arduous path of cultivation, the bond with a shifu like Qin Shenwu was invaluable. The person he intended to see next was, undoubtedly, his Tao companion Shen Ruyan. Their relationship had deepened through mutual support, especially since their arrival in the floodgate realm in search of the Tao. He was confident Shen Ruyan must be thinking of him often too. Before his next period of seclusion, Shen Ruyan was his primary concern. With this thought, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. Stirring a gentle breeze, he transformed into a streak of light and flew off, heading directly for Thunderclap Valley. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan arrived at the boundary of Thunderclap Valley, slowing down to stop before the sect's entrance. The news of his arrival spread quickly within Thunderclap Valley, and soon, a familiar elder from the valley greeted him with a warm smile. After exchanging pleasantries, Jiang Chengxuan made his intentions clear. He was there to see Shen Ruyan. The elder from Thunderclap Valley, naturally, was forthcoming and informed Jiang Chengxuan of Shen Ruyan's recent circumstances. After their brief conversation, Jiang Chengxuan wasted no time heading towards the mountain peak where Shen Ruyan resided. According to the elder, Shen Ruyan had also just ended her seclusion and was currently residing within Thunderclap Valley. Jiang Chengxuan felt it must be fate waiting for his arrival, since they had entered seclusion around the same time. Their emergence should also be closely aligned. Navigating through the peaks and valleys of Thunderclap Valley, Jiang Chengxuan was on his quest to reunite with Shen Ruyan, yet he stumbled upon an unexpected figure first. Atop a nearby peak, a middle-aged man with gentle features and a strong aura smiled warmly at him. Jiang Chengxuan, feeling it, turned to see it was none other than Yun Yizhen, Shen Ruyan's shifu. Their last meeting had been a century ago, after the war, at the Merit Distribution Assembly. "It's been a long time, Sect Master Yun," Jiang Chengxuan greeted, dispelling his dharmic power to approach Yun Yizhen. Given he had already heard news of Shen Ruyan, a brief wait wouldn't hurt, especially since Yun Yizhen was an old acquaintance and Shen Ruyan's shifu. A meeting was inescapable. "Vice Sect Master Jiang, it's good to see you well," Yun Yizhen laughed heartily in response. "Oh please, Sect Master Yun, just call me Chengxuan. You are Ruyan's shifu after all," Jiang Chengxuan replied with a smile, gesturing dismissively. "You young man are nearly catching up to me. What's the rush? Eager to take over as Sect Master," Yun Yizhen teased, continuing to laugh. He had noticed Jiang Chengxuan's substantial increase in strength as he approached as a beam of light, marveling at how quickly he had advanced since their last meeting. If Yun Yizhen knew of Jiang Chengxuan's current state of peak Tao fusion, his surprise would turn into shock. After all, a veteran cultivator like him was only at the peak of the Tao mastery. Jiang Chengxuan was just a junior in their generation, but if he was already at the same realm as them, in that case, he could only be described as a monster. Yet Jiang Chengxuan was not one to boast, choosing instead to remain modest. After exchanging pleasantries and discussing the current state of affairs in the Floodgate realm, given the close relationship between Thunderclap Valley and the Haoran sect, the conversation naturally drifted towards these matters. "Ruyan is on her mountain peak. You should go ahead," Yun Yizhen eventually said, sensing Jiang Chengxuan's eagerness to depart, or perhaps out of consideration for his disciple's feelings. He didn't want to keep his disciple waiting any longer than necessary. Grateful for this, Jiang Chengxuan did not hide his eagerness. He smiled and thanked him. Then he turned into a beam of light and flew to the mountain where Shen Ruyan was. This time, without any interruptions, he crossed the dense mountains and seas of clouds to reach his destination, Shen Ruyan's cave abode. The mountain peak was reminiscent of Jiang Chengxuan's own, home to many spiritual pets, and there, amidst a sea of flowers and spirit beings, was the person he had longed for. As if sensing his presence, Shen Ruyan turned around, her familiar face blooming with a smile more radiant than any flower, stirring Jiang Chengxuan's heart and bringing a smile to his own face. After a century of diligent cultivation apart, their reunion was heartfelt and profound, a moment of deep emotion that needed no words. "You're here, my husband." "Yeah." In the serene embrace of nature, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan found themselves wrapped in a silence that spoke volumes. They held hands, wandering the mountain peaks, immersing themselves in the beauty around them like the most ordinary of cultivators, finding joy in simplicity. "Ruyan, you've also broken through to the realm of Tao fusion," Jiang Chengxuan remarked with a smile as they meandered along a mountain path. He noticed the solidity of Shen Ruyan's aura and the enhanced strength emanating from her. "Yes, this period of seclusion was quite fruitful, as expected," Shen Ruyan replied with a light smile, her breakthrough a natural progression after countless battles, a smooth transition that seemed predestined. "Congratulations. It looks like Thunderclap Valley has gained another powerful elder," Jiang Chengxuan continued. Though Shen Ruyan's breakthrough came a century later than his, in the grand scheme of a cultivator's lifespan, a century was merely a brief moment of seclusion. Shen Ruyan's talents, even without the assistance of a system like Jiang Chengxuan's, were undeniably profound. Her achievements made her more than deserving of the title of Holy Daughter of Thunderclap Valley, possibly the strongest in generations. "Humph, that still doesn't make me comparable to you, Vice Sect Master Jiang," Shen Ruyan teased back, dropping all formalities in the comfort of her companion's presence. In front of her Tao companion, she did not have the airs of a holy daughter at all. These words immediately made the two of them unable to help but laugh. Such partnerships are rare, where both parties match each other's brilliance, understanding the ruthless nature of the Tao that does not wait for anyone. Only those of equal standing can truly walk side by side without holding each other back. Their conversation then shifted towards the developments in the outside world since emerging from seclusion. Walking together, they allowed themselves to relax, enjoying a respite from their duties. In the past 100 years, the development of the Haoran sect and the Thunderclap Valley had been good, as the core figures of the two sects. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were undoubtedly much more relaxed. Seeing the sect become stronger step by step after they joined, they were extremely happy. As they talked about this, the two of them could not help but think of their old friends. They had not seen each other for a long time. Especially those who ascended from the lower realm to the celestial floodgate realm, they had even fewer connections. The two of them sighed. The path of cultivation is indeed lonely, with countless adversaries and allies left behind, either by choice or by the cruel passage of time. Yet for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, their journey together was a constant. Leaning on Jiang Chengxuan's shoulder, Shen Ruyan found unparalleled peace. Her pursuit had always been to follow in his footsteps, and their continued companionship felt like a miracle. Jiang Chengxuan, too, felt fortunate to have such a Tao companion, valuing her presence above any treasure. Their time together on the mountain peak was a brief interlude of peace in the tumultuous world of cultivation. However, both knew this pause was temporary, as their paths called for continuous advancement. When Jiang Chengxuan shared his plan to enter seclusion again with the aim of breaking through to the next realm, Shen Ruyan, though surprised, offered unwavering support. "Just as I finally caught up with you, you're moving forward again," she thought, yet her faith in him was absolute. "Take care, my husband. I have every confidence in you," were Shen Ruyan's supportive words as they prepared for the inevitable separation. Jiang Chengxuan nodded at Shen Ruyan and took out some treasures from his storage ring to assist in her cultivation, handing them to her. Knowing these were tokens of Jiang Chengxuan's care for her, Shen Ruyan did not look at them and directly stored them away. In their relationship, the value of such items was beyond measure. Without dwelling on words of farewell or attempts to hold back, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan parted ways outside Thunderclap Valley. This departure marked a possible century until their next meeting. Such is the path of cultivation. Once embarked upon, there is no turning back. 100 years, 1,000 years, even 10,000 years are but moments to those in pursuit of the Tao, whose sights are set on far more distant horizons. There at the end of the cosmic Tao lies the highest stage, the summit of this world. Every cultivator advances towards this singular goal. Jiang Chengxuan's figure lifted into a breeze, transforming into a five-colored light that flew towards the distant horizon, vanishing from Shen Ruyan's sight in the blink of an eye. Shen Ruyan, unlike typical lovelorn figures, watched until he disappeared, then turned back to her sect. In the next period of time, she had to cultivate crazily. She could not let herself fall behind Jiang Chengxuan too much. This was the tacit understanding between the two of them. Leaving Thunderclap Valley, Jiang Chengxuan returned directly to the Heoran sect without seeking any further meetings. However, his recent time with Shen Ruyan reminded him of several individuals he needed to look after before his upcoming seclusion. He arrived at a certain hall within the Heoran sect, inquired about some individuals from an elder, and then set off towards his final destination before seclusion. This place, too, was within the confines of the Heoran sect, home to a familiar face he sought to see. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan stopped among the bustling figures and finally found the person he was looking for. "Anren," he called out to the figure. At his call, the figure trembled, turned around, and revealed a face filled with surprise. "Shifu," she exclaimed, running towards him and arriving in front of Jiang Chengxuan in an instant. This was Jiang Anren, the disciple of both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Having ascended from the lower realm to the floodgate realm, she joined the Heoran sect. Under the influence of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, she was doing quite well. Seeing his disciple after such a long time, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but smile with joy. He could tell Jiang Anren's cultivation level at a glance. Without a doubt, she was already an extremely outstanding existence among the Heoran sect disciples. Her arrival at the Heoran sect had been timely, and her innate talent, chosen by both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, was exceptionally strong. As the disciple of two important figures within the sect, her treatment was naturally the best. Following the victory in the Five Realms War, the Heoran sect's resources had significantly increased, greatly benefiting Jiang Anren. Her path of cultivation was smoother than that of her Shifus, making her one of the foremost among the sect's younger disciples. "Anren, it seems your path of cultivation is going very smoothly. Both I'm very pleased," Jiang Chengxuan said to Jiang Anren, his words full of praise. He was extremely proud of this disciple. After all, this was a disciple he had tried his best to nurture. Naturally, he felt a great sense of accomplishment. "You flatter me too much, master. My achievements today are all thanks to the care from you, an ancestor," Jiang Anren said with a radiant smile, her heart brimming with joy. The fortune of having Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Jiang Chengxuan's Shifu, Qin Shenwu, as her mentors made her feel incredibly blessed. Her Shifu's occasional remembrance and the profound bond they shared was a rarity she cherished deeply. "Ha ha ha, come on, tell me about your recent experiences." Jiang Chengxuan laughed heartily, taking Jiang Anren for a stroll around the Heoran sect, engaging in light conversation. As they walked, many disciples of the Heoran sect gazed at Jiang Chengxuan with admiration, and their envy towards Jiang Anren was palpable. Jiang Chengxuan did this intentionally, signaling to everyone that Jiang Anren had his backing. In the future, as long as Jiang Anren encountered any difficulties, other cultivators would rush to help on his account. This was the power of strength and fame. Throughout their walk, Jiang Chengxuan inquired about Jiang Anren's current situation and offered guidance on cultivation matters. Along the way, he did his best to guide his disciple. He was extremely caring, and it made Jiang Anren feel warm. Of course, they inevitably reminisced about the past, including situations in the lower realm and news of other ascended individuals. Fortunately, none of their old acquaintances who ascended had suffered mishaps in the war, thanks to Jiang Chengxuan's foresight in providing them with life-saving measures. With their strength, they naturally would not go on dangerous missions. Relying on their trump cards was enough to save their lives. Moreover, cultivators who could ascend from the lower world to the upper world more or less had the enhancement of the heavenly fate. Compared to other ordinary cultivators of the celestial floodgate realm, they could still avoid some calamities and accidents. "I will soon attempt to break through to the realm of Tao mastery. Focus on your cultivation, and if there's an emergency, contact my Shifu," Jiang Chengxuan told Jiang Anren a few days later, after ensuring everything was in order. He then handed her a Jade token for contacting Qin Shenwu, along with a collection of spiritual treasures and medicinal pills that were no longer of use to him, but perfectly suited for Jiang Anren. "Thank you for the gifts, Shifu. I hereby wish you success in your breakthrough and in finding the Tao," Jiang Anren said, gratefully accepting the gifts without any hesitation. "Anren, I'll be off then," Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Having finished his final preparations and without further delay he departed. As Jiang Anren waved goodbye amidst the respectful gazes of others, a sense of longing filled her. She understood the gap between her and her esteemed Shifu Jiang, and Shifu Shen was still significant. Their exceptional talents meant they were destined for achievements far beyond the confines of the Floodgate realm. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan have always pursued their path without hesitation, embodying the true spirit of seekers of the Tao, possessing both the heart and the qualifications for this quest. Jiang Anren, with her resilient spirit, is not discouraged but contemplative. Among countless cultivators, she stands out as a genius, and with a long road ahead, she has no intention of stopping her pursuit. After Jiang Chengxuan left, she planned to cultivate in seclusion to break through. After parting with his disciple, Jiang Anren, Jiang Chengxuan went to meet the last group of people he had in mind. Thanks to the information provided by Jiang Anren during their conversation, he quickly found who he was looking for, a middle-aged man and a young girl. "Brother Huang, it's been a long time, and Linger, how are you both?" Jiang Chengxuan appeared beside them, his arrival drawing everyone's attention, surprising the man and the girl. "Brother Jiang. Brother Jiang." The faces of Huang Wenyu and his daughter Huang Linger, Jiang Chengxuan's old friends who had later ascended to the Floodgate realm, lit up with joy upon seeing him. Jiang Chengxuan had learned of their whereabouts from Jiang Anren. "Shall we chat?" Jiang Chengxuan suggested with a smile. Then the three of them found a place to chat. However, their conversation was brief. Jiang Chengxuan was mainly catching up on their well-being and was pleased to learn that they were doing well in the Heoran sect, benefiting from his connections. After exchanging pleasantries, Jiang Chengxuan pointed out some cultivation problems for the father and daughter. He then bade farewell and gave them some cultivation resources before leaving. He had already achieved his goal of visiting the two of them, which was letting others know that they had a close relationship. There was nothing else to say for the time being. Later at the Heoran sect's administrative hall, Jiang Chengxuan, in his capacity as vice sect master, specifically requested improved resources for Jiang Anren, Huang Wenyu, and Huang Linger. Under the legitimate arrangement of vice sect master Jiang Chengxuan, these instructions were bound to be rigorously implemented. The elders of the Heoran sect, aware of their relationships, understood that these three would have a smooth journey ahead, thanks to Jiang Chengxuan's generosity. It could be said that he had done everything he could. He went above and beyond what many cultivators would do, showing profound affection and a sense of duty toward his friends and disciples that cannot be simply summed up as kind-hearted or loyal. Jiang Chengxuan had a lot of feelings for these old friends and had never forgotten them. Having made these arrangements for the foreseeable future, Jiang Chengxuan was free from concerns for his upcoming seclusion. He returned to Cloud Mist Peak alone, feeling an unparalleled sense of contentment and inner peace. Without any hesitation, he stepped into his cultivation chamber and with a sweep of his hand reactivated the layers of restrictions. With the vast chamber sealed off, Jiang Chengxuan's mindset shifted to one of complete tranquility. This time, he did not do anything else and went straight to the spirit gathering array, sat down on a cushion, and prepared himself for cultivation. With a wave of his right hand, all the meticulously chosen resources were set in place around the array. Some were to power the array, some to stabilize his Tao, and others to provide the spiritual light needed for breakthroughs. These treasures, crucial for his attempt to break through to Tao mastery, were selected with great care, their procurement one of the main reasons he had emerged from seclusion earlier. Buzz. As these treasures appeared, they resonated with each other, immediately filling the entire cave with a halo of colorful light, turning the space into a sacred site where the power of the Tao thrived, nourishing Jiang Chengxuan's physical body and primordial spirit. This preparation alone significantly increased the likelihood of a cultivator's breakthrough to the realm of Tao mastery by at least 20%. Under their nourishment, Jiang Chengxuan's state reached an optimal condition, and the aura of his Tao fusion was fully unleashed without any reservation. Yet Jiang Chengxuan did not stop there. He continued to elevate his aura until he touched the threshold of the next realm. At that moment he experienced a profoundly mysterious sensation, the bottleneck. Calm and composed, he regulated his breathing, continuously and steadfastly channeling his dharmic power in waves against the bottleneck. Soon, under the enhancement of his peak Tao fusion, a glimmer of breakthrough spiritual light appeared in his mind. Then the surrounding treasures, already prepared, began to work, gradually amplifying this flicker of spiritual light. Jiang Chengxuan focused his mind, took out a box, and swallowed a pill inside. It was the enlightenment pill awarded by the system. With the effects of this pill, the probability of breakthrough further increased significantly. As the pill's power spread, Jiang Chengxuan felt his pores relax and his primordial spirit become incredibly clear and transparent. In his sea of consciousness, it was as though the Tao was being opened anew, with the primordial chaos emerging. Mysterious energies began flowing through his meridians to every limb, elevating his comprehension of the Tao to an unparalleled level. This was an esoteric and profound understanding, a concept now made tangible by the pill's power, elevating Jiang Chengxuan's grasp of karma, the Tao rule, and dharmic power to its peak. In an instant, he understood what it meant to master the Tao and how it differed from Tao fusion. Those who fuse with the Tao merge their being with the world's rules, while those who master the Tao generate their own Tao from the Tao itself. Compared to Mahayana, the Tao mastery may be immature, but it is a Tao born anew. It does not follow the past, nor does it use oneself as the conduit to wield the power of the Tao. Instead, it uses the Tao as the conduit, mastering the power of a new Tao. With the power of the enlightenment pill, Jiang Chengxuan instantly recalled all his past experiences related to mastering the Tao, including battles with enemies at this realm. These insights, gained from previous combats, now played back in his mind at 1,000-fold speed, under the influence of the pill. All these insights, now surfacing at once, provided Jiang Chengxuan with every possibility of enlightenment. At this moment, the world of the five elements and the cycle of samsara manifested around him, with countless beings and the cycle of the five elements evolving wildly under his control. The realm of Tao mastery involves finding a new Tao that is entirely under one's control, based on the Tao that has already been fused. This new Tao, derived from the five elements and the cycle of samsara, is fully mastered by Jiang Chengxuan. At this moment, within the world of the five elements and the cycle of samsara, he weaves and searches for this nascent power of the Tao. Under his control, the Tao of the five elements evolves to its extreme. The Tao of fire transforms into celestial and terrestrial flames, capable of burning heavens and boiling seas. The Tao of water becomes tumultuous storms and waves, spreading a calming force to quell all ferocity. The Tao of earth raises mountains and islands from the seas, while the Tao of wood turns into endless greenery, nourishing the land. The Tao of metal manifests as unique ores, born from the refinement of celestial and terrestrial fires, and then sinking into the earth. The interaction of the five elements, creating and overcoming each other, forms the entirety of the world, where the Tao of the cycle of samsara gradually becomes apparent. All beings undergoing the cycle of life and death manifest this Tao, representing an eternal and supreme power. Yet for Jiang Chengxuan, this still feels insufficient. Despite the formidable power, these forces are still borrowed from this world and not truly his own. He seeks a completely new Tao, born from his self-enlightenment. With the enlightenment pill's power, his understanding reaches its peak, and he continuously assails the bottleneck of Tao mastery. Amid the infinite transformations of the five elements and the cycle of samsara, his perception expands until it encompasses the entire world. Billions of changes unfold in his mind, and for a moment, Jiang Chengxuan glimpses the end of the universe. Stars collapse, worlds shatter, and infinite Tao are born from destruction, creating countless new beginnings. This is what Jiang Chengxuan seeks, to break his own limits, to transcend the boundaries of this world and reach higher realms. Having taken this first step, he does not relent but focuses more, using his dharmic power to challenge the bottleneck, tackling it from both ends. Over time, he persistently grinds against the bottleneck of the realm, mastering the myriad transformations within the world. As time mercilessly passes in his secluded chamber, a moment comes when his mind suddenly opens wide. The dharmic power and aura that were restricted by the bottleneck finally improved again. Seated in meditation, his body begins to absorb the primordial spirit chi around him like a whale consuming water. This marks the second step of breaking through the realm. His body, already filled with power, starts to draw in more primordial spirit chi, signaling that a new domain is gradually opening up. In fact, that was the case. Under continuous assault, Jiang Chengxuan has begun to pry open the barrier to the Tao mastery. This means he has entered the quasi-Tao mastery realm, in terms of dharmic power, now on par with cultivators of this realm. The remaining breakthrough lies in the domain of the Tao rule itself, making this part of breaking through to Tao mastery the most perilous. The purpose of this seclusion was actually already half successful. The breakthrough in dharmic power nourishes Jiang Chengxuan's sea of consciousness, opening mystical doors wide, and granting him an unparalleled sense of transcendence. After such prolonged enlightenment, he has deeply penetrated the mysteries of a primordial world that exists beyond the bounds of time and space. This universe, a place not belonging to any specific time or space, encompasses the projections of all worlds, where all Tao, rules, and powers exist as constant transformations. It resembles an unsolvable equation, where relentless calculation brings one closer to the most accurate result. And this is exactly what Jiang Chengxuan has been doing. Jiang Chengxuan never ceased his contemplation of the primordial world, witnessing every moment and the myriad transformations within it. Each instance represented a rule, and with each, there was endless possibility. With the breakthrough power, Jiang Chengxuan's understanding expanded, allowing him to traverse the depths of the primordial world. He witnessed the manifestation of countless Tao, where both the past and the future existed and did not exist simultaneously. The same force could have different interpretations, and the same interpretation could be underpinned by different rules. Immersed in this world of endless possibilities, Jiang Chengxuan felt as if he had seen and controlled everything. Gradually, he seemed to merge into this vast universe, where Tao, rules, and everything else seemed meaningless. The boundary between illusion and reality blurred to the point of seeming non-existent. As Jiang Chengxuan delved deeper, reaching toward the end of the primordial world, possibly moving toward a new world, a sudden buzz from the system snapped him momentarily out of this profound state. However, he was quickly pulled back into the void, continuing to sink. This was undoubtedly an anomalous situation. Overpowered by various factors, Jiang Chengxuan had ventured too deeply into the primordial chaos, and his consciousness was being devoured by that world, a perilous moment indeed. Meanwhile, in the real world outside his meditation chamber, Jiang Chengxuan's physical body began to turn ethereal, as if it might disappear at any moment, struggling to maintain its existence in this realm. This was a higher dimensional world engulfing him, and if this continued, he would vanish completely. But at this critical juncture, a box beside him shone brilliantly, emitting a force not of this world, which contended with the devouring power. Then a black, ethereal lotus rose and spun above Jiang Chengxuan's head. An arcane power emanated from it, protecting Jiang Chengxuan's physical form. This was the protective gift from Qin Shenwu, proving invaluable at this critical moment. When momentarily awakened, Jiang Chengxuan realized something was amiss. Thinking swiftly, he opened the box containing the Taoist Black Lotus. Hence this scene happened. Now, two supreme forces from beyond the floodgate realm clashed over Jiang Chengxuan, both stemming from higher realms and tearing at each other instinctively. Amid this struggle, Jiang Chengxuan began to regain consciousness.